Chapter 1161. Since the He family had chosen to support the Qin family with all their strength, the He family had been in the same boat with the Qin family. They were bound together for good or bad. The further the Qin family went, the more benefits the He family would get. If the He family had not been exposed in the past, they might not have needed the Qin family. After all, they had their own way to go. However, the He family had offended too many people because of the Qin family. They definitely needed the Qin family and the Zhu family and the Song family, which were behind the Qin family, in order to maintain their foothold in Siju City. This might have been the He family's choice after weighing the pros and cons. However, Old Master He did not think so much at the beginning. Just like what he had said when he first met Qin Shing, the He family was the guardian family of the Qin family. When the Qin family was in trouble, the He family must stand up without hesitation, not for benefits, but to repay the kindness. However, the rest of the He family were hesitant at the beginning. They dared not disobey the Old Master's decision. After all, the He family was built by the Old Master from scratch. The younger generation, who enjoyed the blessings, had no right to say what to do. However, they were still uneasy. However, after the Old Master finished explaining his reasons, they believed in his decision in the end. That was because the Old Master's reasons were irresistible. That was, although Qin Chang'an had fallen, the Qin family would rise again sooner or later. Especially after Qin Shing and Song Ryu got married. The future of the Qin family was Qin Shing. Behind Qin Shing were the Zhu family and the Song family, especially the Zhu family, which was like the sun at noon. Others were not qualified to help the Qin family even if they wanted to. However, everything did not go so smoothly. 3 years ago, when Qin Shing got into trouble, the He family was shocked. If Qin Shing had died, the Qin family would have fallen sooner or later. However, the He family had offended many people because of the Qin family. Those people did not dare to hit the Qin family when they were down, but it did not mean that they would not dare to do anything to the He family. The Zhu family and the Song family could protect the Qin family, but who would protect the He family? The He family would pay a heavy price because of this. During that time, Old Master He was calm and composed. However, the rest of the He family was under great pressure. Fortunately, it was all a false alarm. After all, Qin Changxing had met Old Master He after returning and told him the truth, which could be considered as stabilizing the He family's morale. However, 3 years was indeed a long time. 1 year passed and another year passed. There was still no news of Qin Shing. The He family was getting more and more afraid that what Qin Changxing said was just to comfort them and to hide the truth. This couldn't be blamed on the He family. Not to mention the He family, everyone else was becoming more and more skeptical of what Qin Changxing said, let alone the He family. It was not until Qin Shing successfully returned to the capital that all the rumors and uneasiness completely disappeared. Under the pavilion, Old Master He, who could be said to be sitting on the fishing platform after Qin Shing's return, smiled as he looked at this youngster who had met with many misfortunes. The Qin Shing that he hoped to see was not the Qin Shing now, but the Qin Shing who had infinite possibilities in the future, the one who could surpass Qin Chang'an. In this way, the He family could follow the glory. Moreover, if Qin Shing was only like this, relying on the wealth and resources accumulated by the Qin family, as well as the background of the Zhu family and the Song family, he would be very disappointed. Of course, Old Master He's question had a deep meaning. Qin Shing picked up a handful of fish feed and directly sprinkled it into the pond. He chuckled and said, "Old Master, I prepared it 3 years ago. Now another 3 years have passed. If I don't prepare it now, the daylilies will be cold." After eating a handful of fish, thousands of koi flocked to the pond. This scene was really spectacular. Old Master He finally smiled and said, "Ha ha, I was waiting for you to say this." At this time, footsteps came from the corridor. Qin Shing subconsciously turned around and saw two middle-aged men walking slowly toward him. One looked calm and experienced, while the other dressed a little casually and looked elegant. Of course, Qin Shing had already recognized who these two were. They were the two sons of Old Master He. Qin Shing smiled and waved to greet them. The two men of the He family also smiled back. The second son of the He family laughed and said, "Qin Shing, welcome back." Qin Shing replied calmly, "Second brother, long time no see." The second son of the He family patted Qin Shing's shoulder and said, "Indeed, long time no see. Let's have a drink later." At this time, Old Master He slowly stood up and said, "I'm a little tired. Call me when it's time for dinner. You young people can chat." Old Master He was just talking about the old days with Qin Shing. The two men of the He family might talk to Qin Shing about other things. In the past 3 years, although the He family followed the Qin family and made a lot of profits in the capital market, they did not have deeper cooperation with the Qin family after all. Qin Chongqing did not care about this. After all, it was Mr. Ding who was in charge of the Qin family's company. However, Mr. Ding did not have much friendship with the He family, so it was not convenient for the He family to talk about some things. Now that Qin Shing had returned, he was the man who could really make decisions in the Qin family. Therefore, the two men of the He family wanted to talk to Qin Shing about specific things, which was related to the He family's future. After all, there was no big shot like Mr. Ding in the He family. Therefore, Qin Shing stayed in the He family's Sihiyuan until 5 p.m. He talked with the two men of the He family about many things. Although he did not dare to say that he did not hide anything, he talked about the Qin family's future direction. As for how the He family would choose, it was up to them. At noon, Qin Shing drank a few more glasses of wine. After that, he rested in the Sihiyuan for a while. After he got up and talked for a while, he left. Originally, Qin Shing was going back to the Shishan villa at night. Unexpectedly, Xia Ding called Qin Shing and asked him to go there. Qin Shing did not know what was going on, so he simply went there on the way. The place that Xia Ding said was on Xinbi Street. It was said that it was a private restaurant with good taste. It had a deep research on Shandong cuisine and the taste was very good. When Qin Shing arrived, Xia Ding was waiting at the door. It was also in a remodeled Sihiyuan. The Sihiyuan was not big and had no special features. It was similar to most Sihiyuan. Not everyone could be as generous as Old Master He, who dug a pond in the Sihiyuan to raise koi fish. "What's going on? Why did you call me over in a hurry?" Qin Shing said casually. Of course, Xia Ding had something to say, but it was not convenient for him to say it directly. He smiled and said, "Nothing. I just didn't drink enough last night. I want to fight with you tonight." "Do you think I don't know you? If you have something to say, just say it. I don't have time to waste with you." Qin Shing scolded angrily. Xia Ding laughed and said, "Don't worry. Let's talk while eating." At this time, Qin Shing and Xia Ding had walked into the Sihiyuan. Chang Baji also followed them. After all, there were no outsiders today. Chang Baji and Xia Ding were old friends. Qin Shing went in and found that the Sihiyuan was deserted. There seemed to be no other guests except them. This Sihiyuan only served 4 tables of guests every day. So Qin Shing asked, "Didn't you say that the private restaurant is good? Why is there no one here? Have you been cheated?" Xia Ding did not know whether to laugh or cry. He said, "Big brother, why would I cheat you? I can't get a reservation in normal times. My friend used his connections to get a reservation." Qin Shing frowned and said, "You brought a friend?" Xia Ding really had no choice today. That friend found him and said that he had to help him no matter what. Moreover, he also owed this friend a favor before. He had to bite the bullet and return the favor. Xia Ding said helplessly, "How to say it? It's a little complicated. You'll know when you see me." Qin Shing was more confused. What did Xia Ding mean by deliberately being mysterious? It did not seem like his style. The private room was very big. Unfortunately, there were only 3 people, Qin Sheng, Xia Ding, and Chang Baji. Lao Chang sat quietly beside them. Xia Ding and Qin Sheng drank tea and talked about things in Shanghai. Hao Lei had already returned to Shanghai. There were many things waiting for him to deal with there. Xia Ding happened to have something to do in Beijing, so he would go back in a few days. After waiting for more than 10 minutes, Xia Ding's friend had not arrived yet. Qin Sheng asked again, "When will your friend arrive?" "Soon, soon." Xia Ding forced a smile on his face, but in his heart, he was cursing the other side countless times. In the future, he would never do something like this again, even if he was beaten to death. How extravagant was it that they actually made him and Boss wait for so long? Before his voice died away, the door of the private room was pushed open. The door of the private room was pushed open, and a chubby man wearing glasses walked in with a smile on his face. The man looked to be less than 40 years old. As soon as he entered the room, he hurriedly apologized. "Young Master Xia, young Master Qin, I'm so sorry. I'm late. The traffic was too heavy. I should have left earlier." Xia Ding was very unhappy. "Sit down." Qin Sheng was serious. After all, they did not know each other. He did not need to be so polite. The chubby man could feel that both Qin Sheng and Xia Ding were angry. Cold sweat kept flowing down his face. He had rushed over from Shanghai. After all, the company had encountered such a big issue. He had to pull a lot of strings before he could find Xia Ding. Xia Ding's expression changed. Because Xia Ding was very famous in the circle in Shanghai now, many people also knew his relationship with the Qin family's young master. Maybe only he could help solve this problem, even if he had to spend a lot of money. Otherwise, he would not be able to survive in the entertainment circle in the future. Xia Ding was originally working for someone else. He did not have any friendship with the chubby man in front of him. He did not want to waste Qin Sheng's time. He directly said, "Lao Zhao, I've helped you to make an appointment. The rest is up to you. It has nothing to do with me." Okay. Thank you, child Xia. I will never forget your great kindness." The chubby man called Lao Zhao quickly expressed his attitude. Qin Sheng was even more confused. What was going on today? He looked at Xia Ding with a puzzled face. Finally, his eyes fell on this Lao Zhao. Elder Zhao could not sit still. He did not know if he could get what he wanted to do today. In the end, he gritted his teeth and said, "Young Master Qin, I'm here to apologize to you today. It's all my fault for not disciplining them properly, which caused some misunderstanding between us. I hope young Master Qin can forgive me." Qin Sheng was confused. He had only been back in Beijing for a few days. He had not seen this man before. How could there be a misunderstanding? Misunderstanding? I'm afraid you got the wrong person. We don't know each other, right? Qin Sheng said truthfully. Lao Zhao did not know what to say. He smiled and said, "Actually, it was like this. Forget it, child Qin. I'll let him tell you." After saying this, Lao Zhao directly stood up and walked to the door of the private room. His face changed instantly. He was no longer humble. He shouted angrily, "Get the F***ck in here." At this time, a handsome young man walked in slowly with his head down. When he saw this man, Qin Sheng finally understood what was going on. Wasn't this the extremely arrogant little fresh meat yesterday afternoon? Chapter 1162. It was a small world. Qin Sheng did not expect Xia Ding to be so mysterious. It turned out that it was because of this matter. If he had not seen this little fresh meat, Qin Sheng would never have thought that it would be because of this matter. After all, this matter had nothing to do with Xia Ding at all. To be honest, Qin Sheng was just a little angry. If he hadn't seen this little fresh meat who was so arrogant yesterday, he might have forgotten about this matter in a few days. However, Qin Sheng had forgotten about this matter, but it didn't mean that Chong Baji had forgotten about it. After yesterday, Chong Baji handed over this matter to Chen Beiwang, and the rest of the things were left to Chen Beiwang. With the Qin family's influence in the capital market and other resources, it was easy to deal with a little fresh meat. The most important thing was that Song Ruyu made 2 phone calls casually. Although these 2 phone calls were only at the bureau level, they were in key departments with real power. After all, they were related departments in charge. Therefore, it was not only this little fresh meat who suffered a tragedy, but also the agency behind him. In recent years, it was also a little famous in the industry. It had cultivated several popular little fresh meats and beautiful female stars. In addition, it had signed a lot of powerful actors. It could be said that it had a promising future. After all, the behind-the-scenes boss and the shareholders were very powerful. Otherwise, how could they fight in the entertainment circle? However, after this incident last night, the company changed dramatically in an instant. First, the partners terminated the contracts with the company's artists. Then, many film and television projects, variety shows and so on, which had been discussed, fell through. In particular, all the cooperation with this little fresh meat was stopped by the partners. At this time, the company's management realized that something big had happened and quickly investigated what had happened. Fortunately, the behind-the-scenes boss and the shareholders were relatively powerful. After inquiring through various friends, they found out that this little fresh meat had caused trouble. The most important thing was that the background of the other party he provoked was too powerful. It could be said that they could easily kill them. When they found out, they were shocked. They really didn't know how this idiot provoked the other party. Therefore, the behind-the-scenes boss and the shareholders quickly called to ask what was going on, but the little fresh meat and his assistant manager refused to admit it at first. It was not until they told the truth that they realized how serious the matter was. After thinking about it, it seemed to be related to what happened last night, so they told the truth. Now that the truth was out, the boss and the shareholders were so angry that they scolded the little fresh meat. However, the trouble had already been caused. No matter what, they had to solve this problem. With their level, it was too difficult to directly contact the other party. Even if they could contact him, would a phone call and an apology solve the problem? They were all adults, so they should have some brains. Therefore, these shareholders used their connections. They couldn't just let the company collapse directly. After all, the annual profits were very considerable, and there were many cooperation projects in the future. In the end, a cousin of one of the shareholders knew Xia Ding, and also knew the relationship between Xia Ding and the Qin family. He also knew that Xia Ding and Qin Sheng were roommates in college. In addition, he had helped Xia Ding in Shanghai before. As a result, they met today. At this moment, after Qin Sheng saw the little fresh meat, he said with interest, "Oh, it's you. I thought it was something important." Lao Zhao was the behind-the-scenes boss of this company. He was also a little powerful in the entertainment circle, and he also knew many big shots. However, in front of Qin Sheng, he was nothing. He was nothing. Otherwise, why would he be so humble? Lao Zhao quickly smiled apologetically and said, "Young Master Qin, it's all my fault that I didn't manage these artists well, so they provoked young Master Qin. I hope young Master Qin can be magnanimous and don't lower yourself to the level of these actors. I will discipline them well when I go back." After hearing this, Qin Sheng sneered and said, "Brother Zhao, he was not like this yesterday." After hearing this, Lao Zhao turned around and glared at the little fresh meat. Without hesitation, he slapped his face and said, "Are you Kingdom? Kneel down and apologize to young Master Qin. Even if you want to die, I don't want to die with you." Old Zhao had used all his strength in that slap. A red handprint instantly appeared on the handsome little fresh meat's face. If his fans were to see this, wouldn't they be heartbroken? At this moment, stars and little fresh meats were all farts. In fact, this kind of thing was not strange at all. These stars and little fresh meats were idols in front of their fans, but they were nothing in front of the capital tycoons and the higher-level tycoons behind them. After all, there was no shortage of good-looking or beautiful stars in the entertainment circle. Every once in a while, new idols would appear. Who could guarantee that they would be outdated after a period of time? Moreover, there were all kinds of talent shows appearing continuously. As long as you had money and resources, any beautiful person could be packaged as a star. After Lao Zhao vented his anger, this handsome little fresh meat hesitated and knelt down with red eyes. He replied with a sad voice, "I'm sorry, young Master Qin. I was wrong. It's all my fault for offending you. Please forgive me." When he knelt down, his dignity was already gone. Until now, he still hadn't come back to his senses. He didn't expect that the seemingly ordinary man he met yesterday had such a powerful background. Even his boss and shareholders had to behave themselves in front of him. It could be seen that he had provoked a powerful person. If he was given another chance, he would never do that. However, it was impossible to reverse the situation. He could only think of a way to solve it. Was dignity important? It was very important. But for him, it was nothing compared to his future. Was he willing to give up everything now, including money, status, vanity, and so on? He was used to the scenery of a high place, and he would never want to go back to his previous life. Therefore, in order to solve this matter thoroughly, in order to appease Qin Sheng and make him stop making trouble for the company and him, he finally gritted his teeth and kowtowed to Qin Sheng. Every time he kowtowed, he could hear the sound. It seemed that he would lose if his head did not bleed today. Qin Sheng saw this scene and sneered. "What? Are you threatening me? Why do I feel like I'm bullying you?" When Lao Zhao saw the little fresh meat kowtowing, he thought that this kid was flexible. But after hearing Qin Sheng's words, his face changed. He came to his senses and kicked the little fresh meat directly. He scolded, "Who the hell asked you to kowtow? Are you looking for death?" The little fresh meat was directly kicked to the ground by Lao Zhao. He grimaced in pain, but did not dare to say anything. He could only sob in a low voice. Today's matter had trampled all the pride he had in recent years to the ground. At this time, he realized that he was really nothing. He was a little disheartened for a moment. But before he came, his boss had already said that if he could not solve today's matter, he would not be able to work in the entertainment industry anymore. He should just pack up and go home, because no one would want him anymore. Qin Sheng saw this scene and felt nothing. He said calmly, "Acting?" After saying this, Lao Zhao's whole back was wet. If he made a fool of himself today, it would be even more troublesome. Lao Zhao quickly ran to Qin Sheng and said, "Young Master Qin, how dare I act in front of you? I'm really sincerely apologizing to you. As long as you can forgive us, we can do anything." On the other side, Xia Ding had been smiling and watching the show. He had seen a lot of stars and idols in Shanghai, especially this kind of little fresh meat. After all, Shanghai was the economic and financial center. How could a place with capital lack these people? Today, he just wanted to return a favor. If Qin Sheng was angry because of this, he would have to reply to Qin Sheng later. Therefore, he only cared about bringing Lao Zhao here. As for the rest of the matters, he would leave it to Lao Zhao. Whether Qin Sheng could calm down or not had nothing to do with him. He would not say anything good either. But he knew Qin Sheng's temper. If this went on, he might really make Qin Sheng angry. He could only say, "Lao Zhao, do you really think this kind of apology is enough?" If the person he met yesterday was not Lao Qin but other ordinary people, what would he do? Not to mention apologizing, I guess he would hit him when he was down. Lao Zhao said awkwardly, "Young Master Xia, how is that possible? Our company is very strict with our artists." "Strict? I didn't see it. It's said that the entertainment circle is messy. I think it's all because of you people. How can such a little fresh meat be an idol for fans? He will only lead the fans astray. Therefore, your company should be careful in the future. It's better not to meet this kind of people with bad character. Xia Ding shook his head and said. Lao Zhao quickly nodded and said, Definitely, definitely. A fall into the pit, a gain in your wit. Don't worry, young Master Xia. At this time, Qin Sheng did not pay attention to Lao Xia. He walked slowly to the front of the little fresh meat, looked at him directly and said, Do you hate me now? The little fresh meat did not dare to say that he hated him. He quickly shook his head and denied it. Qin Sheng laughed and said, Don't deny it. I know you hate me. Maybe I hate your boss too. If you have a chance, if I fall into your hands, I guess you will pay me back double, right? But don't worry, you won't have such a chance, at least not in this lifetime. I can ignore what happened yesterday. But if I hear any bad news about you in the future, I will let it go together. When Lao Zhao heard this, he knew that Qin Sheng had forgiven them. He quickly shouted, What are you waiting for? Hurry up and thank young Master Qin. Fortunately, you met young Master Qin. If you met someone else, you really don't know how you died. The little fresh meat was so happy that he cried, Thank you, young Master Qin. Thank you, young Master Qin. I promise it will never happen again. Qin Sheng ignored him. Even if he and Lao Zhao hated him, so what? If there were so many people who hated him, they were nothing. At this time, Xia Ding seized the opportunity and said, Lao Zhao, young Master Qin has forgiven you. Aren't you going to say something? He would not let Lao Zhao let it go. After all, Lao Zhao had already told him his bottom line. Did he still want to pretend to be ignorant? Of course, Lao Zhao knew what Xia Ding meant. He said directly, Young Master Qin, although we have some misunderstandings, to express our apology, we are willing to give you 15% of the company's shares as compensation. I hope young Master Qin will accept it. Qin Sheng slowly stood up and walked out without looking back. Lao Xia, this is for you. After saying this, Qin Sheng directly left the room. Xia Ding hurriedly followed. Before he left, he didn't forget to pat old Zhao's shoulder. His meaning couldn't be clearer. Chapter 1163. Qin Sheng did not know Lao Zhao's background, nor did he know how powerful his film company or agency was. Even if they were powerful, could they be more powerful than the companies under the Qin family? Probably any one of them would be more powerful than his company. Therefore, Qin Sheng really did not care about these shares. Qin Sheng did not want to eat all kinds of meat. He did not want to get himself into trouble. Qin Sheng still knew his bottom line. After all, the entertainment circle was a place of trouble. Qin Sheng did not care about those little benefits. If something happened to Lao Zhao's company, although it had nothing to do with the Qin family, it would not be worth it if people insinuated the Qin family because of this little benefit. After all, there were many people with ulterior motives. However, Qin Sheng could not let Lao Zhao take advantage of it. Therefore, he gave these shares to Xia Ding. Anyway, this guy's circle was more complicated and he was more popular in Shanghai. It was more suitable to give it to him. Moreover, it was a way to tell Xia Ding that he did not care about him being a peacemaker. Qin Sheng swaggered off. This little thing took up a lot of his time. Xia Ding followed him out. He had done what he needed to do. Fortunately, Qin Sheng gave him face. After Qin Sheng and Xia Ding left, Lao Zhao heaved a long sigh of relief and sat on the chair. He wiped the sweat on his forehead with his hand and glanced at the little fresh meat kneeling on the ground. He scolded angrily, My reputation has been ruined by you. If you dare to make trouble for me in the future, not only will I ban you, I will bury you alive. When the little fresh meat heard this, he was shocked. After experiencing this incident, he promised to be polite to everyone in the future because he was really scared. After Xia Ding got out of the room, he directly put his arm around Qin Sheng's shoulder and said, I promise it will only be this once. I really had no choice but to owe that person a favor. Just in time. We are brothers. You don't have to worry about such a little thing. Qin Shing said angrily. Although Xia Ding said so, he knew Qin Shing's character very well. Hence, he would not dare to accept this kind of thing in the future. He smiled bitterly and said, I'm not afraid that you will be angry. I heard that you were quite angry yesterday. It's all in the past. But I have to remind you that I'm giving you these shares. Don't keep any female stars as your mistresses in the future, lest Qin comes to me later, Qin Shing said coldly. Xia Ding said loudly, F***ck, I've turned over a new leaf, okay? Qin Shing did not bother to pay attention to him. Anyway, he did not know what had happened to Xia Ding in the past few years. Who knew if this guy had messed around? When Qin Shing and Xia Ding were about to leave the private home cuisine restaurant called Breeze and Drizzle, they happened to meet a few guests who were chatting happily and wittily when they walked to the entrance of the second courtyard. They looked very young. 3 men and 2 women. Judging from his attire and temperament, he must be fey. Rich and noble people were probably the children of rich families. Qin Shing and Xia Ding had originally taken a detour. However, they inadvertently saw the man in the middle. Qin Shing subconsciously recognized this man. He really did not expect to meet him here. It was really true that enemies did not enter the door. They had just returned to Beijing and they met this old rival. At this time, the 5 men and women who were walking toward them also saw Qin Shing and Xia Ding, but the others did not take them seriously. They continued to talk and laugh as they walked inside. At most, they would walk around Qin Shing and Xia Ding. They were not crabs who walked sideways. But at this time, the man in the middle seemed to recognize Qin Shing and was directly stunned on the spot. When the others saw him stop, they were a little confused and did not know what was going on. After 3 years, they met again? No, it should be an enemy. Brother Su, what's wrong? The woman next to him asked in a low voice. The man who was called Brother Su did not respond, but continued to stare at Qin Shing opposite him. At this time, the man on the right frowned and said, Brother Su, is this your friend? Brother Su still did not speak. Qin Shing recognized this Brother Su, so did Xia Ding. He somewhat regretted choosing to come here today. He really did not expect to meet here. What bad luck! At this time, Qin Shing continued to walk forward. He did not pay attention to the others present and directly walked up to Brother Su. Master Su, how have you been? This man who was called Brother Su was none other than Su Xingwei, who had fallen out with Qin Shing in the past. After 3 years, Su Xingwei did not seem to have changed much. He was still so elegant and handsome. However, the Su family was not as strong as before. It was like the sun was setting in the west. Su Xingwei's face was gloomy, but he still replied calmly, A few days ago, I heard that you came back. I didn't expect to meet you here today. It's really fate. Su Xingwei looked very bright in white short-sleeved shirt and sports pants with white coconut. Who knew how this man had tried to kill Qin Shing in the past? Therefore, one could not judge a person by his appearance, but his heart was the most important. What had happened in the past was still vivid in Qin Shing's mind. The Su family could be said to have played a great role in the internal and external troubles of the Chang'an school and the internal school. How could Qin Shing forget what Su Xingwei had done? Therefore, Qin Shing asked bluntly, Young Master Su, are you very disappointed that I didn't die? Originally, Su Xingwei's friends thought that he had met an old acquaintance and greeted him. But after hearing the conversation between the two of them, they understood what was going on no matter how stupid they were. However, they were not from the capital, so they did not know Qin Shing. But they definitely knew Qin Shing. Su Xingwei smiled bitterly and said, Young Master Qin, you are too serious. It's not like we've killed each other's father. Why would I want you to die? Hearing this, Qin Shing laughed out loud and said, Young Master Su, I haven't seen you for 3 years. You are a bit hypocritical. This is not the you I knew in the past. I am still me, as always, Su Xingwei replied disapprovingly. Qin Xing replied happily, okay, I hope young Master Su can still be the same. Otherwise, I will be so disappointed. After saying this, he nodded to the few friends besides Su Xingwei to show his respect. Then, he shook his head and smiled bitterly as he walked past Su Xingwei. Xia Ding glanced at Su Xingwei, his eyes full of disdain. In the past 3 years, the Su family had suffered more than they had imagined. 2 of their fathers had been investigated one after another. Was young Master Su still the young Master Su he used to be? Therefore, in front of Qin Xing, he had long lost the confidence he had in the past. Humans had to admit defeat when it was time to do so. If it was in the past, when Qin Xing and Su Xingwei met by chance today, the atmosphere would definitely be at loggerheads. How could it be so easy? Everyone was very clear that these rich playboys in Siju City had the capital to be domineering because of the glory accumulated by their fathers. Without the stability and foundation of their families, who would dare to be so domineering? Those phoenix men who climbed up step by step from the bottom, which of them did not bury their ambitions in their hearts and put their dignity and conceit in their pockets? Therefore, without the protection of their families, they were really nothing. They could only tuck their tails between their legs and behave. In the past 3 years, Su Xingwei must have had a deep feeling about this. He, the once absolute young Master Fengyun in Siju City, had fallen from the altar step by step like this. After Xia Ding and Qin Xing left, Su Xingwei stood in the same place for a long time without saying anything. To be honest, he really hoped that Qin Xing would die, so that there would not be this meeting today. Although he had experienced such a scene many times in the past 3 years, he had never been so ashamed as he was today. Compared to other people's sarcasm and ridicule and adding insult to injury, what Qin Xing had done today was nothing at all. But because of this, he became more and more embarrassed. It was because of the Qin family that the Su family could become what it was today. He, Su Xingwei, was willing to face everyone except Qin Xing, especially when Qin Xing was standing in front of him as a winner, while he was a complete loser. Su Xingwei was not willing to face Qin Xing. What he could not stand was Qin Xing's eyes, the kind of eyes that ignored him, because he was already no match for Qin Xing. After a long time, Su Xingwei let out a long sigh, then turned around and left with a smile. His friends asked in confusion, "Brother Su, what happened? Where are you going?" But Su Xingwei ignored them and left without looking back. Chapter 1164. Most people knew that it was easy to go from frugality to extravagance, but difficult to go from extravagance to frugality. But in this life, climbing from the bottom to the top was as difficult as ascending to the heavens, but falling from the top to the dust was as easy as lifting one's hand. It was just that not everyone could bear the feeling of falling from the bottom, let alone Su Xingwei, who had been pampered since he was young. If they were the kind of people who started from scratch, rose to the top, and then fell back down, they were originally small characters. Even if they fell, they would have a higher starting point than before. As long as they could adjust their mentality, they would be able to start all over again. However, Su Xingwei couldn't. His starting point was the ending point of others. He had never experienced the hardships of the bottom. Now, as his family fell, his life was getting worse and worse, like the fallen leaves in autumn, getting more and more miserable and withering. Especially this kind of slow cutting of flesh with a knife was the most uncomfortable. He couldn't go up and he couldn't go down. Those who used to be at the same level as him had abandoned him, not to mention those who mocked and ridiculed him. He couldn't get along with those who used to be inferior to him. He couldn't lower himself to be a bootlicker. Sometimes, dignity and face were more important than anything else. This was Su Xingwei's situation. Fortunately, he had 2 or 3 real friends. Otherwise, Su Xingwei would really sigh about the fickleness of the world. However, who could he blame for all this? Su Xingwei used to be insufferably arrogant and looked down on everyone. The Su family was too self-righteous. They thought that they could overthrow the Qin family and control the Chang, a system by following the sixth uncle, and finally enjoy the benefit. Unfortunately, his table manners were too unsightly. Although Qin Sheng wasn't clear about Su Xingwei's situation, he could roughly guess it. Even Master Long was struggling at death's door, not to mention the Su family. Su Xingwei, who used to be his rival, was now in such dire straits. Qin Sheng was not interested in Su Xingwei at all. Su Xingwei, who was arrogant and domineering in front of him, had disappeared. What Su Xingwei feared most now was that Qin Sheng would take revenge on him, right? However, at least for now, Qin Sheng didn't have time. The next evening, Qin Sheng took Song Ryu to the airport to pick up Uncle Lin, Auntie Wang, and Xin. Uncle Lin and Auntie Wang still lived in Xi'an. After all, they had lived in this place for so many years and no one was willing to leave easily. Moreover, old people preferred a familiar environment. However, Song Ryu would go to Xi'an to visit them every once in a while, which was what Qin Sheng should do. Song Ryu did everything she could. Every week, she would call Lin Shi and Wang Li 2 or 3 times to take care of them. Sometimes she would take them to Beijing. After all, Xin was also in Beijing. As for Xin, she chose to return to Shanghai to work after finishing her postgraduate studies at Tsinghua University. She didn't stay in Beijing or Xi'an, which surprised many people. No one knew why Xin didn't want to stay in Beijing. She had to spend, to be, life. 2 were in life in Beijing. She was, by. She didn't show, and life. Without a way. Back to her home, she had felt. Besides, the Zhu family and the Song family were not easy to deal with. Song Ryu had found Xin's supervisor in person. She used to be the vice president of the student union of Tsinghua University, so she was very familiar with those leaders and professors. Besides, those old professors liked her very much and were willing to help her. Besides, Song Ryu had a powerful background and was now in a department with real power. Song Ryu often came to Tsinghua University to visit Xin. She often took her out for meals and shopping. She made a lot of friends, so her life in Beijing was not too boring. Apart from Song Ryu, Qin Ran and Qin Jing also treated Xin as their biological sister. Every weekend, they would take Xin to their home and buy all kinds of food and clothes for her. Qin Ran was worried that Xin might not be used to living on campus, so she renovated a house near Tsinghua University in advance and let Xin live there. As for Qin Jing, she and Xin were best friends. The 2 girls were about the same age, so they could play together. Qin Jing often stayed at Xin's place instead of going home. Therefore, Xin had been very happy in Beijing during the past 2 years. She had integrated into Qin Sheng's life circle, except that Qin Sheng was not there. However, no matter if it was Xin or others, they would not talk about Qin Sheng when they were together, so that they would not be sad. Now Qin Sheng was finally back. When Xin heard the news, she flew from Shanghai to Xi'an as soon as possible. Then she took her parents to Beijing to reunite with her brother. At the domestic arrival gate of the capital airport, Qin Sheng held Song Ryu's hand and waited quietly for Uncle Lin, Auntie Wang, and Xin to come out. Today, Song Ryu was dressed very elegantly. She was really the kind of wife that everyone imagined, so many people turned their heads to look at her. However, all her thoughts were on the man beside her. As for Qin Sheng, although he had disappeared for 3 years, he was happy that his family and friends were all fine. Finally, Qin Sheng saw Uncle Lin, Auntie Wang and Xin walking out slowly. Uncle Lin and Auntie Wang walked in front, and Xin followed behind with her suitcase. Although Uncle Lin and Auntie Wang were a little older than before, they seemed to be much more energetic than before. After all, they no longer lived like before. Now, they lived a leisurely life without so much pressure and worry. What about Xinshin? She had grown up, matured, and became beautiful. Every child would become an adult. Xinshin was no longer a little girl who loved to cry. She had become a strong woman in a company of the world's top 500. Qin Shing walked quickly to the exit. At this time, Lin Shi, Wang Li and Xinshin also saw Qin Shing and Song Ryu behind. When the family met again, no one said any sad words. They just hugged each other tightly. There were smiles on their faces and tears in their eyes. As long as they could reunite, that was enough. Seeing this scene, Song Ryu could not help but feel a little emotional. On the way back to the Qin family's West Mountain villa, they sat in the same business car in order to chat more. They had a good time talking and laughing on the way. Lin Shi, Wang Li and Xinshin did not mention what had happened in the past, nor did they ask Qin Shing about what had happened in the past 3 years. They did not complain or reprimand Qin Shing, as if the past 3 years had been erased. Lin Shi and Wang Li already knew that Qin Shing and Song Ryu were going to get married. After all, they were Qin Shing's adoptive parents. Whether it was the Qin family or the Zhu family, they would take the initiative to inform them and invite them to come early to prepare for the two children's weddings. After all, Lin Shi and Wang Li had been looking forward to this day for many years. If they did not attend it in person, they would feel somewhat disappointed and regretful. After all, they had watched Qin Shing grow up and raised him as their own son. Qin Shing sat in the front passenger seat. Lin Shi and Wang Li sat in the middle. Xinshin and Song Ryu sat in the back. The two little sisters talked about their private topics. After all, they were very familiar with each other now. Qin Shing said half-jokingly, "Xinshin, I heard from your sister that you are a postgraduate in Tsinghua University. At that time, the number of boys chasing after you will line up from the gate of Tsinghua University to the gate of Peking University. Do you have a crush? Brother, why do you ask this as soon as you come back?" Xinshin complained. Qin Shing said with a smile, "I'm your brother. It's natural for me to care about you. Besides, you're not young anymore. It's time to think about marriage." Xinshin directly said, "Brother, you'd better take care of yourself first. If you give birth to a little nephew or niece for me, I'll get married immediately. How about that?" Qin Shing really wanted to say, "I've already fulfilled your wish for you. Your little niece is already more than 2 years old." But how dare he? However, since Xinshin could ask this, it was obvious that she did not know about Yuan Yuan. After all, many people knew about it. When they returned to the Qin family's villa, Qin Chongxing, Zhao Anji, Qin Ran, and Qin Jing were already waiting for them at the door. They had always been very respectful to Lin Shi and Wang Li. After all, they had raised Qin Sheng for so many years. It could be said that the Qin family was greatly indebted to them. As soon as they got out of the car, Qin Jing ran over to say hello to Lin Shi and Wang Li. Then she directly hugged Xinshin, who was behind them, and shouted, "Big girl, I missed you so much." Xinshin said happily, "Arya, I missed you too. You stood me up last time. This time, I'll treat you to a big meal." Qin Jing secretly kissed Xinshin and said happily, "Oh, I got it. I'll treat you to the best." Because Qin Jing's nickname was Yaya, they called one big girl and the other Arya, which showed how close they were. At this time, Qin Chongxing and Zhao Anji had already greeted Lin Shi and Wang Li with a smile. Gongsun, who still stayed in Beijing, was also here today. He also greeted Lin Shi and Wang Li. This scene was really lively. Everyone talked and laughed into the villa. At this moment, the dining room had already prepared a sumptuous dinner. They directly went to the dining room and sat down according to the host and guests. To be honest, Qin Shing had not been so lively for a long time. Everyone present was his family and friends, and they were also people who cared about him. How could he not be happy? Qin Changxing and Zhao Anji naturally sat on the main seat. Except for Lin Shi and Wang Li, who sat on the left, the others also sat casually. There were not so many rules. Qin Changxing had prepared several bottles of Maotai and red wine. How could they not drink in such an atmosphere tonight? Qin Changxing had abstained from drinking for many years in Mount Wutai. However, after returning to Beijing, he did not have so many taboos. When he saw his old friends, he would take the initiative to drink a few mouthfuls. Since he was already back, he did not care so much. Moreover, as long as there was Buddha in the heart, there was Buddha everywhere. Everyone filled their glasses. Qin Changxing stood up with a smile and said, "Today's scene is really rare. On behalf of the Qin family, I thank Lao Lin and his wife for taking care of Qin Xing for so many years. Welcome to Beijing again." Secondly, Qin Xing finally came home safely. If he did not come back, I did not know how to face so many people. Finally, of course, the marriage of Qin Xing and Ru. Today we wish them a happy wedding in advance. I hope they can hold hands and grow old together. Cheers. The others looked at Qin Xing and Song Ryu at the same time and said their heartfelt blessings. Cheers. Qin Xing and Song Ryu looked at each other and also raised their glasses and drank up. To be honest, seeing such a scene, Qin Xing was really touched. In the future, he would definitely not be so impulsive. Since so many people cared about him, he could not let them worry. Chapter 1165. In the past 3 years in Sichuan, Qin Xing could be said to be lonely and destitute. He lived like an ascetic monk. Moreover, he had even lost his memories of the past. To be honest, ordinary people would not be able to handle it. It was lucky that he did not go crazy. Fortunately, Qin Xing had his aunt, Qin Changqing, to accompany him in the past 3 years. In addition, there was a Tibetan Buddhist temple in that small town. Qin Xing often went there to relieve his boredom, so he did not lose himself. Perhaps it was because he had lost his memory that Qin Xing could stay there for 3 years. If Qin Xing did not lose his memory, he might not even be able to stay there for 1 or 2 months. This might be Qin Changqing's consideration. She had to suppress Qin Xing, just like how the old master had suppressed Qin Xing for so many years. This was a family dinner. Although there were 2 families, because of Qin Xing, they became one family, which made the desolate Qin family more and more lively and warm. If Qin Chang'an was here, it would be perfect. Perhaps this was what everyone in the Qin family was thinking at the moment. After dinner, everyone was a bit unsatisfied. Qin Changxing dragged Lin Shi to the living room to continue drinking and chatting. Gong Sun and Chang Baji also accompanied them. However, Zhao Anji and Wang Li reminded them to drink less. Fortunately, when they were eating just now, they took advantage of the situation and did not go overboard. Zhao Anji and Wang Li were chatting in the living room on the 2nd floor. Song Ryu, the daughter-in-law, naturally accompanied the 2 elders. Qin Ran, Qin Jing, and Xin sat on the sofa and chatted. Occasionally, they heard the elders talking about interesting things and would make fun of them. What about Qin Xing? He sat alone on the balcony, poured himself a cup of tea, and stared blankly. After a while, Xin ran over and sat opposite Qin Xing. She asked casually, "Brother, what are you thinking about? I'm going to introduce you to a boyfriend and marry you soon." Qin Xing took a sip of tea and looked up at his silly sister, who had grown up. Xin shrugged and said, "Brother, here you go again?" Qin Xing stopped smiling and asked casually, "Why did you choose to work in Shanghai? For you, there should be more opportunities in Beijing. Or is it because you're not comfortable here?" Qin Xing was telling the truth. As long as Xin stayed in Beijing, with the resources of the Qin family and the Song family, they could arrange a suitable job for her no matter what. Xin pursed her lips and smiled. "Brother, I know what you mean. I also like Beijing very much. In the past 2 years when I was studying in Beijing, Sister Ryu, Sister Qin Ran, and other elders all took special care of me. Sometimes I felt embarrassed, but in comparison, I like Shanghai more. Maybe I'm more familiar with Shanghai. Besides, I have a lot of friends in Shanghai, such as Sister Qin Yan, Sister Han Bing, Brother Hao Lei, and Brother Xia Ding. You don't have to worry about who will bully me. I'm your sister. Who dares to bully me? Xin said happily. As Qin Shing's sister, she had benefited a lot. Qin Shing shook his head and said, "You've grown up. I won't care about you anymore." Since Xin had already made up her mind, Qin Shing did not say anything more. He heard that his sister, Qin Ran, had originally intended to give the keys to the apartment in Pudong to Xin. It was closer to where she worked. Qin Shing and Lin Su used to live there. However, Uncle Lin did not accept it. After politely rejecting it, he bought another apartment for Xin. Although the two families were already a family, the Lin family was still unwilling to owe the Qin family too much. At this time, Xin glanced at the women who were chatting over there and said to Qin Shing in a low voice, "Brother, now that you've come back and decided to marry Sister Ryu, I don't want to say more about your feelings. But I think you should say something to Sister Lin Su. At least, you should meet her and give her an explanation. I don't want to see her sad." Qin Shing knew what Xin was worried about. She did not want to let Lin Su down. However, he could not tell Xin some things directly. He just said, "You don't have to worry about these things. I know what to do." Xin curled her lips and did not say anything more. The three members of the Lin family came to Beijing and naturally lived in the Shishan villa. The Qin family was big and had many rooms. At about 10 o'clock, Qin Shing accompanied Song Ryu for a walk downstairs. Song Ryu said lightly, "Uncle Lin and Auntie Wang have no one to take care of them in Xi'an. How about we take them to Beijing? In this way, Xin will not have to suffer so much in the future." Qin Shing sighed and said, "I have thought about this before. However, they have been in Xi'an for so many years and have long been used to the familiar environment. I guess they are not very willing to do so. Unless Xin marries in Beijing in the future, maybe they will consider coming to Beijing." Song Ryu said half-jokingly, "Then find a boyfriend for Xin in Beijing." Qin Shing asked with interest, "Do you have a suitable one? It is not urgent." "I will ask Xin first," Song Ryu said lightly. When they walked back, they saw Chen Beiwang standing at the door of the villa. Obviously, he had something to talk to Qin Shing about. Otherwise, he would not have come to the Shishan villa at night. Song Ryu nodded to Chen Beiwang sensibly and walked into the villa. Qin Shing threw a cigarette to Chen Beiwang and said with a smile, "Brother Chen, it's so late at night. What's so urgent that you have to come here in person?" The two of them smoked as they walked to the back of the villa. Chen Beiwang said honestly, "Young master, Elder Long has made some moves. It seems that Elder Long has noticed what happened in Chengdu, so the two of them are ready to take action. They want to cooperate with you, so they asked me to meet you." Qin Shing did not expect it to be so fast. He frowned and said, "How did you talk to them?" "I made it very clear to them that this is their internal affair and has nothing to do with the Qin family. Moreover, they are the Qin family's enemies. If they want the Qin family to help them, they have to show enough sincerity. There is no such cheap deal in the world. It's already good enough that the Qin family doesn't make trouble for them," Chen Beiwang said confidently. After all, the Qin family had the upper hand. Qin Shing asked thoughtfully, "How did they respond?" "They're stuck between a rock and a hard place. If Elder Long really wants to settle accounts with them, they'll have no choice but to fight to the death. Naturally, they'll agree to our terms first. As for the specifics, we'll have to wait and see," Chen Beiwang said truthfully. Qin Shing asked casually, "Is Old Long still alive? This old guy is quite good at holding on. He's on his last breath." "Young master, you don't want him to die like this, do you?" Chen Beiwang guessed. Of course, Qin Shing did not want to see this old guy die like this. He wanted Elder Long to see him destroy everything with his own eyes. In the end, he would personally send the old guy on his last journey. Only in this way could he really avenge his mother. After thinking for a while, Qin Shing decided, then let's meet them. You decide when to meet them. I'll go and see them at that time. Okay, I'll tell them now, Chen Beiwang said in a tone that was neither too light nor too heavy. After saying this, Chen Beiwang was ready to leave. Things could have been cleared up over the phone, but Chen Beiwang made a special trip here, which meant that he attached great importance to Qin Shing. After all, he had not really become Qin Shing's confidant yet. Just when Chen Beiwang was about to leave, Qin Shing said with a smile, "Brother Chen, thank you for what happened the day before yesterday." Of course, Qin Shing was talking about that little fresh meat. However, for Chen Beiwang, what Qin Shing asked him to do was a big deal. He did not dare to neglect it casually. He could only say that the little fresh meat did not have eyes and really thought that he was a big shot. Chen Beiwang did not dare to be arrogant. He said obediently, "It's just my job." After Qin Shing nodded, Chen Beiwang left alone. At least so far, Qin Shing was quite satisfied with Chen Beiwang. In the next 2 days, Qin Shing spent most of his time with Uncle Lin and Auntie Wang. After all, they had not seen each other for 3 years. They missed Qin Shing very much and needed him to accompany them more. After all, people were old and needed companionship. For the rest of the time, Qin Shing accompanied Song Ryu to choose a wedding dress. Of course, Qin Ran, Qin Jing, Xin, Song Ryu's cousin, and other advisors were also there. Qin Shing was just a bystander. Anyway, they would not consider Qin Shing's opinion. They insisted that Qin Shing had the vision of a straight man, which made Qin Shing not know whether to laugh or cry. However, there was a piece of news that made Qin Shing very happy. That was, his grandmother's health had gradually improved recently. His small aunt planned to let him see his grandmother in these 2 days. It happened that his uncle also came back from other places. Hearing the news, Qin Shing was really happy from the bottom of his heart, but at the same time, he felt somewhat uneasy. Chapter 1166. Although Qin Shing had seen his grandmother last time, the doctor didn't allow him to see her because of her physical condition. He could only stand outside the ward and watch her through the window for a while after she fell asleep. Seeing his extremely weak grandmother, Qin Shing felt more guilty and distressed. It was said that the child wanted to raise his mother, but his parents were gone. Qin Shing already had such a regret, which was his mother's early death. It was a deep pain in his heart and an irreparable regret. His grandmother was over 90 years old now. No one knew how long she could live. She might die tomorrow. Therefore, his grandmother needed company most at this time, and such opportunities were getting rarer and rarer. However, Qin Shing had disappeared for 3 years. If his grandmother had passed away when he came back, how regretful would he be? Fortunately, his grandmother was still alive, which made him feel extremely lucky. At noon on the weekend, he arrived at the hospital with Song Ryu half an hour earlier. When they arrived, Zhu Weiguo and Zhu Qingwen had already stayed in the hospital for more than an hour. Every time Zhu Weiguo came back from a business trip, the first thing he did was to visit his mother in the hospital. It had almost become a habit in the past 3 years. Filial piety was the most important of all virtues, especially for the Zhu siblings. Zhu Weiguo was usually busy, but he would accompany his mother whenever he had time. Zhu Qingwen also knew that her brother was busy with work. After all, it was difficult to be loyal and filial, so she took more time to accompany her mother. When the old lady lived in Shanghai, she would accompany her mother as long as she had nothing to do. She would come almost every other day. When the old lady was in poor health, she would accompany her mother every day without any complaints. Since the old lady came back to Beijing, Zhu Qingwen had come to Beijing once a week before she was transferred to work at Tsinghua University. She came to the hospital almost every day, as if she would feel uncomfortable if she didn't come to the hospital to accompany her mother. Therefore, the Zhu siblings were really filial. Of course, Zhu Weiguo's wife, Wu Yajun, was also very filial. Zhu Qingwen's husband, Zhu Chongshun, was also busy with work, but he would accompany the old lady when he had time. After all, he could get to where he was today because of the Zhu family's silent support. The elders were so filial, not to mention the other younger members of the Zhu family. Besides, they had spent more time with the old lady since childhood. After all, the old master had been in a high position at that time and didn't have much time to accompany them, so they had more leisure after he retired. Therefore, the children had a deeper relationship with the old lady. They would come to the hospital to visit the old lady every now and then. They would take the initiative to accompany the old lady if they had nothing to do. They had to work. If they didn't visit the old lady for a long time, the Zhu siblings would come to the hospital. In the waiting room of the hospital, Qin Xing finally saw his uncle, whom he had not seen for a long time. Perhaps because he had just returned from a business trip, his uncle did not even bother to change his clothes and directly came to the hospital in his military uniform. There were several guards on duty at the door of the waiting room. When Qin Xing and Song Ruyu walked into the lounge, Zhu Weiguo didn't seem to be excited to see his nephew again after 3 years. He said calmly, "You're here. Sit down." Qin Xing and Song Ruyu walked over quickly. He greeted them respectfully, "Uncle, small aunt." Qin Xing didn't know whether Zhu Weiguo was thinking about national affairs or worried about the old lady's health. He seemed to be a little absent-minded, which made Qin Xing mistakenly think that this uncle was angry. After all, he had too many responsibilities that he couldn't shirk at that time. So it was no wonder that an accident happened. Who else could it be? In the end, the ones who were afraid were the ones who cared about him the most, especially the ones who made his grandmother worry too much. In order to ease the atmosphere, Zhu Qingwen took the initiative to ask, "Ruyu, I heard that you have been choosing wedding dresses these days. How is it going?" In fact, Song Ruyu didn't care about that. However, Qin Ran and the others said that they had to pay attention to it. After all, they would only get married once in their lives. How could they be so casual? Song Ruyu, who was sitting next to Zhu Qingwen, replied, "My elder sister and the others have already chosen a wedding dress for me. It's just that the wedding dress is custom-made, so it will be some time before I see it." Zhu Qingwen said half-jokingly, "I trust Ran Ran's taste. But small aunt is really looking forward to seeing you in the wedding dress. I guess you will be very beautiful. After all, Ruyu is beautiful. I don't know what good karma Qin Xing has accumulated in his previous life." Every time when the Zhu family and the Qin family were in front of them, they would say the same thing. Song Ruyu seemed to have gotten used to it. At this time, Zhu Weiguo looked at Qin Xing and said, "Treat Ruyu better in the future. You disappeared without a trace in the past 3 years, but Ruyu bore all the pressure for you. Do you know how wrong she was?" "Uncle, I know. It's all my fault. I won't let Ruyu down." Qin Xing didn't dare to say anything more at this time. He had to promise obediently. Zhu Weiguo said with some emotion, 3 years have passed just like this. Your grandmother has been waiting for you for 3 years. I'm really afraid that she won't be able to wait until the day you come back. Maybe she has been waiting for you with this breath all the time. I'm afraid that when she sees you, her breath will also be gone." This was what everyone in the Zhu family was worried about. The old lady was like a lamp that had run out of oil. Therefore, sometimes the Zhu family hoped that Qin Xing would come back earlier, and sometimes they hoped that Qin Xing would come back later. However, these things were destined not to be decided by them. Moreover, birth, aging, illness, and death were common things in human beings. Qin Xing didn't know what to say. He was also afraid that such a situation would happen, which would make him a sinner. At this time, Zhu Weiguo said lightly, "Go in. Your grandmother is already waiting for you." Qin Sheng hesitated for a few seconds. What did his uncle mean? Zhu Qingwen explained, "Your uncle was afraid that your grandmother would not be able to accept the news of your sudden appearance. So he told your grandmother in advance this morning so that she could be mentally prepared." The doctor also said the same thing. He was afraid that she would be too emotional to see you. At the same time, he was also testing your grandmother's physical condition. Hearing this, Qin Sheng understood what was going on. After thinking about it carefully, it made sense. In this way, everyone could rest assured. Qin Sheng stood up slowly and looked at his uncle and small aunt with a complicated feeling. Finally, he walked to the ward with heavy step. Song Ruyu was a little worried. Zhu Qingwen timely said, "Ruyu, you go with him." Song Ruyu hurriedly stood up and followed Qin Sheng into the ward. Maybe the old lady would be in a better mood when she saw her. In the ward, 2 nurses were accompanying the old lady. They were all nurses carefully selected by the hospital and took care of the old lady in every possible way. For patients like the old lady, the hospital would have a professional medical team to take care of them. It could be said that the patient's condition was monitored 24 hours a day. Qin Sheng slowly opened the door of the ward. When he saw his grandmother lying on the bed, he subconsciously stopped and could not move his legs. At this time, the old lady also felt someone coming in. She instinctively looked at the door of the ward. When she saw that it was the grandson that she had been longing for day and night, the old lady's eyes instantly froze. All her eyes were on the grandson that she loved the most. It seemed that she was unwilling to leave him for a second. It seemed that she was afraid of him the next second. He disappeared. She had waited for 3 years. Finally, this silly grandson appeared. In the beginning, they lied to her that Qin Sheng had gone abroad. But if he had gone abroad, at least they could contact him. Even if her grandson was at the end of the world, he would definitely call her or send her a video call. But why didn't he? Later, they could not hide it anymore. They said that Qin Sheng had an accident and was missing. At that time, she felt that the sky had collapsed. How could something happen to him? How could he be missing? My poor grandson had just come back for a short time. How could he be missing again? What on earth was going on? Under her tough questioning, the others told her the truth and told her what had happened. Only then did she realize how serious the situation was. They all said that he was just missing and nothing had happened to him. But she did not believe it. She felt that everyone was lying to her. Something must have happened to her poor grandson. At that time, she almost died. She did not know how to explain it to the old man and her daughter. How could she have the face to see them? Because of this, she was in a coma for a week, which shocked everyone. When she woke up later, old Master Song appeared with Qin Chongqing. Qin Chongqing swore that Qin Sheng was safe and sound, but could not come back for the time being. He told her that she must believe that Qin Sheng would come back sooner or later. At first, she did not believe it. But after old Master Song said it, she believed it. This wait went on for 3 years. The others did not believe that Qin Sheng was fine. Maybe he was already dead. They did not believe that Qin Sheng could come back. But she firmly believed that her grandson would definitely come back, and he would come back safe and sound. She had countless dreams in the past 3 years. In her dreams, her grandson told her, "Grandma, you have to be well and wait for Xing to come back." So she never gave up. So she did not dare to leave. She was afraid that her grandson would be sad if he did not see her when he came back. So she waited. She had been waiting. Today she waited. In fact, everyone was worried that something would happen to her because she was too excited about Qin Sheng's coming back. She knew her health condition better than anyone else. She did not want her children or her grandson to worry. So she had thought about it many times. If her grandson came back one day, she would be calm, as if they met each other normally. So when her son and daughter told her in the morning that Qin Shing had come back, he had come back a few days ago. But because she was not in good health, she did not dare to let Qin Shing see her. She just peeped at him outside the ward. She was stunned for a few seconds when she heard the news. It would be a lie to say that she was not excited. How could she not be excited? Her eyes turned red, but she wiped away her tears. She smiled and said, "It's good that he is back. I know my grandson will be fine." Then she forced herself to calm down and not be too excited. Therefore, she had been waiting for her grandson since the morning. She had calmed down a long time ago. She felt that it was enough as long as he came back. At this moment, when she really saw her grandson, she was very calm. After she came to her senses, she waved at her grandson with a smile in her eyes and on her face. "My Xing is back." Hearing this, Qin Shing could not stand it anymore. He directly knelt on the ground with a flop and said guiltily, "Grandma, I am not filial. I made you worry." Chapter 1167. The old lady was over 90 years old. The old lady was already more than 90 years old and had experienced too many ups and downs. What kind of parting of life and death had she not seen before? She just couldn't let go of this poor grandson. Maybe it was because of Qin Shing's experience in these years, or maybe it was because of the guilt of her daughter's death. The old lady was most worried about him and felt sorry for him. She hoped that this grandson could be safe and happy in this life, so that she could face the old man and her daughter calmly in the future. However, Qin Shing had a bad fate. He left Beijing when he was young and grew up alone with his grandfather. After he grew up, he wandered from place to place and experienced all kinds of setbacks and tribulations. He almost died several times. Later, he finally returned to the Qin family and thought that he could live a happy and comfortable life from then on. However, he encountered the trouble of the Qin family again. In the end, he walked around the gate of hell again. In fact, Qin Shing was very clear that his grandmother was over 90 years old. He didn't want her to worry, nor did he want anyone who cared about him to be afraid. However, he was not the goddess of fate and couldn't arrange his own life. He could only try his best to avoid it. If Qin Shing could choose again, he would still choose to go to Ningbo, because it was something he had to do. Lin Su was his beloved woman. He had already let her down. How could he let her down again? Furthermore, old Madame Lin had treated him well. Back when he was still a poor loser, only old Madame Lin had supported him and Lin Su without any hesitation. Now that old Lady Lin had passed away, Qin Shing had to send her off for the last time. Otherwise, he would feel guilty. However, if he went to Ningbo again, he wouldn't be so careless. He would definitely take Lao Chang and the others with him. These were all in the future. There was no medicine for regret in the world. What had happened could not be changed. What he could do now was to face it calmly and try his best to make up for those regrets and mistakes. At this moment, the old lady was not as calm as everyone expected. It was because she had gradually accepted the news in the morning. Secondly, she told herself not to be so excited when she saw Qin Shing in the morning. She knew the condition of her body and knew that everyone was worried about her, especially her grandson. If something happened to her today, her grandson would feel guilty for the rest of his life. The others might even blame him. That was why she could be so calm. However, she did not expect him to suddenly kneel down. "I'm sorry for calling you Grandma. I'm unfilial and made you worry." Hearing this, the old lady felt extremely distressed. Of course, she knew that Qin Shing did not do it on purpose. It was just an accident, so she never blamed Qin Shing. The old lady took a deep breath to calm herself down. She quickly waved her hand and said, "Shing, what are you doing? Get up, get up." Qin Shing did not get up. He did not know how to face his grandmother. It was not easy for his grandmother to see him after more than 20 years. Not long after they reunited, they parted again. This time, it had been another 3 years. How could Qin Shing not feel guilty? Qin Shing said again, "Grandma, it's all Xing Er's fault. He made you worry for so long. It's all Xing Er's fault that he took so long to come back." The old lady was a little emotional as she said, "I don't blame you. Get up quickly. Come here and let me have a look at you." Qin Shing still had no intention of getting up. The old lady hastily ordered, "Ruyu, help Xing Er up. Don't let him kneel any more. What are you doing?" Song Ruyu was also moved at this moment. She knew that the old lady loved Qin Shing the most. It was not only because Qin Shing's mother passed away early, but also because Qin Shing had left Beijing when he was young and lacked family warmth and affection. Other children, whether they were from the Qin family or the Zhu family, had lived a carefree life since they were young because of the background of the Qin family and the Zhu family. However, Qin Shing had suffered a lot and gone through a lot of hardships before he finally returned to the Qin family. Song Ruyu quietly wiped away her tears and quickly helped Qin Shing up. "Qin Shing, get up. Don't make Grandma too excited." Qin Shing came to his senses. He was most worried about his grandmother's health. He slowly stood up. The old lady smiled and said, "Come here, come here." Qin Shing quickly walked to the bedside. The old lady was anxious to get up and hold Qin Shing's hands. Qin Shing took the initiative to hold his grandmother's thin hands and said, "Grandma, I'm sorry." The old lady did not complain or blame him at all. She said happily, "Don't say sorry to me. You're my Xinger. I'm very happy that I can see you. Do you know what I'm most afraid of is not seeing my Xinger? I also said that I would see you two get married. I'm afraid that I won't be able to see you." Qin Shing said firmly, "Grandma, I promise that I won't disappear anymore. I won't let you worry about me anymore. Ruyu and I are already preparing for our wedding. Grandma, you will definitely see it. Grandma, you also said that you will give us a baby." Zhu Weigua and Zhu Qingwen had told her this news in the morning. The old lady replied happily, Okay. I'm waiting for you to get married. In this way, I can leave with peace of mind. If I can see your baby, I'll be more satisfied. But I'm old and can't give you a baby." Song Ruyu was already sitting by the bedside. She said obediently, "Grandma, you're not good. The doctor said that you can live for many years. You kids only know how to make an old lady like me happy. How could I not know about my body? But I'm already satisfied to live to this age. It's God's charity to live one more day. Now I can see my Xing or come back and see you two get married. I'm really satisfied in my life." The old lady let out a long sigh. Qin Shing muttered, "Grandma, you'll definitely get better. I forbid you to say such words." Okay. I won't say such discouraging words. I'll live well," the old lady said with a smile. Upon hearing this, Qin Shing finally smiled. He was very happy to finally see his grandmother today. The most important thing was that the situation he was most worried about did not happen. Otherwise, he would not be able to face his other relatives. At this time, Qin Shing asked, "Grandma, do you really not blame me?" "Why should I blame you? You're my Xinger. As long as I can see you're fine, I'm already very happy." The old lady patted Qin Shing's hand and said. Song Ryu said softly, "Grandma, he knows he's wrong. If he does this again in the future, I won't forgive him first." The old lady said happily, "Ryu, I know you've suffered a lot in these years. Now that Qin Shing is back, I'll let him make it up to you. You two must be fine. I can't imagine how happy I'll be to see you two together." The small book kiosks that his friends had used before had been closed. Now they were basically using them to exchange for source divine weapons. Qin Shing said seriously, "Grandma, don't worry. We'll be fine." The old lady nodded kindly and then asked, "Xing tell me how you've been in the past 3 years. Did you suffer a lot of grievances and hardships? Did anyone bully you? If anyone bullies you, just tell me." The old lady nodded kindly and kindly said, Xing tell me. Qin Xing said in a hurry, Grandma, don't worry. I've been fine in the past 3 years. I haven't suffered any hardships. I'm so smart. Who can bully me? Don't worry. The old lady complained on purpose. Then why didn't you come back earlier to see me? Weren't you afraid that I would never see you again? Qin Xing replied in a hurry, Grandma, I also want to come back earlier. Unfortunately, I lost my memory in the past 3 years. I can't remember anything. Otherwise, I would definitely come back earlier. The old lady then understood. After all, Zhu Weiguo and Zhu Qingwen hadn't had time to talk about many things in the morning. He didn't want to say too much, which would make the old lady feel too burdened. The old lady murmured to herself, Oh, that's it. Why did you lose your memory? Qin Xing didn't want to talk about too many things, lest his grandmother overthink. He smiled and said, I was just a little injured. But now I'm all right. I'm still the same Qin Xing. I haven't changed at all. I'm not missing any arms or legs. After that, Qin Xing took the initiative to stand up and gesture to the old lady, which was somewhat childish. The old lady said angrily, What are you talking about? Don't talk nonsense in the future. Qin Xing smiled mischievously and said, Xing, I won't talk about it anymore. At this moment, the atmosphere in the ward was very warm. Even the medical staff were somewhat moved. They really hadn't seen the old lady so happy from the bottom of her heart for a long time. But in this way, the old lady could also feel better. As for Qin Xing, at this moment, he didn't have any scheming or shrewdness. In front of his grandmother, he seemed to be a child who hadn't grown up yet. He smiled very innocently, and even some of the words he said were quite childish. Qin Xing continued, Grandma, take care of yourself. You must listen to the doctor. I'll come to see you every day and tell you the people and things I've met in the past 3 years. In this way you can get well soon. The old lady said quite seriously, I'm not a child. I'll definitely listen to the doctor. And I'll attend your wedding with Ruyu. Qin Xing was very happy and laughed. Song Ryu knew that the old lady was most concerned about her and Qin Xing's wedding, so she took the initiative to tell the old lady about the wedding preparation, so that the old lady would be in a better mood. In the lounge outside the ward, because the door of the ward was not closed, the old lady and Qin Xing's conversation in the ward were clearly heard, which made them sigh with emotion. They hadn't seen the old lady so happy for a long time. Zhu Qingwen couldn't help but say with emotion, Our mother still likes Xing most. He was like this when he was a child. I didn't expect that after more than 20 years, he is still like this now. If my sister saw him, she would be so happy. Zhu Weiguo shook his head and chuckled. This boy was very strange when he was a child. He could make the old man and the old lady laugh all the time. Some feelings are buried deep in the bones and won't change because of time. It's a pity that the old man didn't see Qin Xing come back. He felt somewhat regretful. There are so many regretful things, and we can't do anything about them. For example, my sister will never come back, Zhu Qingwen said emotionally. Maybe it was because of the scene in the ward. Zhu Weiguo looked calm and serious, but he replied with a murderous look, But at least we got our revenge. Chapter 1168. For the Zhu family, the unexpected death of Qin Xing's mother was a scar that could never be erased, but no one wanted to mention it. At that time, the Qin family was deeply involved in the whirlpool and almost used up all its power. The Zhu family also paid a price at that time. Otherwise, how could Elder Long stay dormant for so many years? For example, old Master Zhu was stuck in a key position for 3 years, and it was not until later that he successfully reached the peak of his career. Back then, it could be said that both sides suffered great losses. The Qin family suffered great losses. Qin Chang'an lost his true love, Qin Changxing's career ended, and he became a monk. Old Master Qin was forbidden to enter the capital city for the rest of his life. In order to protect the young Qin Shing, Old Master Qin could only take him to his hometown. Although the Zhu family didn't directly participate in the incident back then, they had still lost their most beloved daughter. In order to seek justice for his daughter, Old Master Zhu had been delayed for 3 years. If it weren't for a certain big shot persuading Old Master Zhu, perhaps Old Master Zhu would also have acted unscrupulously. Now, more than 20 years had passed. The Qin family had accumulated a lot under the low-key forbearance of Qin Chang'an. Otherwise, they would not have been able to build the aircraft carrier of the Chang'an family. Mr. Ding had his own ambition. Didn't Qin Chang'an know that? Mr. Ding wanted something else, but Qin Chang'an had other things to consider. Qin Chang'an lost his true love. Although so many years had passed, he would not let it go. How could he not take revenge for his wife's death? That was why Qin Chang'an was so unscrupulous. He had to tie up enough important people on this aircraft carrier, so that he could take revenge on the day of Mount Tai. Perhaps it was because Mr. Ding knew this that he left. However, man proposes, God disposes. Personal grudges were nothing in the course of history. As a giant in the capital industry, the Chang'an family was bound to be punished as a warning to others. Elder Long seized this opportunity and was ready to hit the Qin family when they were down. He united with the other major shareholders of the Chang'an family and wanted to kill the Qin family. However, what Elder Long and the others didn't expect was that they, too, were huge crocodiles, and would be dealt with sooner or later. Otherwise, even with the help of the Zhu family and the Song family, how could the Qin family defeat Elder Long so easily? To put it bluntly, the Zhu family was the most important, because it was also the Zhu family's revenge. The Zhu family had endured for so many years, and the current Zhu family was no longer the Zhu family of the past. Old Master Zhu had been in a high position for many years, and had helped the Zhu family accumulate too many connections and resources. Zhu Weigua's meteoric rise in the military also made the Zhu family more confident. In addition, Zhu Changshun, this originally unremarkable son-in-law of the Zhu family, had finally made people have a whole new level of respect for him. Step by step, he seemed to be retracing the path that old Master Zhu had taken in the past. Now, he had even stepped into the circle that the vast majority of people could only hope to reach. The current Zhu family was the true towering tree. While the Qin family and Elder Long were locked in a stalemate, the Zhu family's attack was a sure kill. In the end, Elder Long paid the price for what he had done in the past. The river flows east for 30 years and west for 30 years. No one dared to say that they would be able to laugh in the end. The higher a great family stood, the more they were afraid of taking a wrong step and falling into the abyss. The Zhu family had been treading on thin ice for the past few years, and now, they had finally exchanged it for the radiance of the sun. If the Qin family took a wrong step, they would be doomed. Elder Long, who was on the same path as the Qin family, thought that he had taken every step in history. However, he still took the wrong path. Otherwise, the Zhu family would not have such a chance. Everything was over. It was time for the dust to settle. In the end, it was Qin Shing who cleaned up the mess. At this moment, in the lounge, Zhu Weigua and Zhu Qingwen looked calm, but everyone knew how much the Zhu family had sacrificed in order to wait for this day. Even if Zhu Weigua stood at the top of the pyramid of power, he did not dare to rashly take the initiative to take revenge. The Zhu family had been waiting for such an opportunity. The onlookers saw the game more clearly than the players. Old Master Song, who had always felt that something was wrong, suddenly realized that all of this might have been part of Qin Chang'an's plan. He had been laying out a trap, waiting for everyone to jump into it. In the end, be it the Zhu family, the Song family, Elder Long, or Sixth Uncle, they all quietly became Qin Chang'an's pawns. When he thought of this possibility, he did not speak for an hour. Qin Chang'an was risking his life to bring down Elder Long. He wondered if the Zhu family had thought of this. However, even if Zhu Weiguo and the others had thought of this, they might still jump into the trap, because it was all worth it. The heartwarming scene in the ward made Zhu Weiguo and Zhu Qingwen feel emotional. In the past 3 years, the Zhu family had used too many resources and connections. Now, they finally got justice for Qin Sheng's mother, and let everyone know that the Zhu family was not so easy to bully. However, Zhu Qingwen was not satisfied. That old thing is still alive, isn't he? He will die soon. Isn't it better to leave the rest to Qin Sheng? If we do it again, it will be a bit unreasonable, Zhu Weiguo said calmly. The murderous aura on him finally disappeared. Just now, Zhu Weiguo's powerful aura made Zhu Qingwen somewhat uncomfortable. Don't look at this big brother's amiable appearance in front of the Zhu family. Everyone could feel that kind of imposing aura without being angry, so all the juniors of the Zhu family were actually afraid of him. Not to mention what Zhu Weiguo was like outside. Zhu Qingwen thought for a few seconds and said, "You're right. It seems more appropriate for Qin Sheng to do it himself." Zhu Weiguo said calmly, "You don't have to worry about anything. I guess the Qin family already has a plan." Zhu Qingwen stopped talking. If it was possible, she would like to see the old thing off in person. At this time, Qin Sheng and Song Ryu came out of the ward. The old lady was still weak. Although she had endless things to talk to them, the doctor only gave her so much time. Otherwise, the old lady would not be able to bear it. Before leaving, Qin Sheng and Song Ryu promised the old lady that they would make time to visit her tomorrow. The old lady was satisfied. Today, the old lady was really happy. The smile on her face never disappeared. She didn't lie down on the bed until Qin Sheng and Song Ryu walked out of the ward. When they came out, Zhu Qingwen stood up with a smile and asked, "Did your grandma scold you?" Qin Sheng shook his head and smiled bitterly. He knew that his aunt said that on purpose. Zhu Qingwen chuckled and said, "I knew it. Your grandmother was reluctant to scold you. Since you came back 3 years ago, your grandmother has never said anything harsh to you. She was afraid that you would suffer. She really loves you." Zhu Qingwen smiled and said, "I knew it." Qin Sheng blamed himself as he said, "I made grandma worry about me." Zhu Qingwen glanced at Song Ryu and then at Qin Sheng as she said, "If you really want to reassure her, marry Ryu and have a baby as soon as possible. Then she will be completely relieved." Song Ryu was a little embarrassed. Qin Sheng said shamelessly, "Auntie, isn't it fast to get married? But I can't be anxious about having a baby." Zhu Qingwen said angrily, "You're so talkative." Zhu Weiguo has also. He walked over and said in a low voice, "Both your grandmother and old Master Song are already so old. Maybe their last wish is to see you get married and have children with their own eyes. You'd better hurry up. What I'm most afraid of is that they won't see it." Although Zhu Weiguo's words were direct, it was also the truth. Zhu Qingwen said in a hurry, "Brother, don't rush them. Don't give them too much pressure." Zhu Weiguo did not continue to say anything. He just patted Qin Sheng's shoulder and signaled Qin Sheng to follow him out with his eyes. After Qin Sheng followed his uncle out of the lounge, they walked to a lounge on the same floor where there were no patients. The guards also followed them here and quietly guarded outside the door. Zhu Weiguo said straightforwardly, "Don't you have anything to say to me?" Qin Sheng was stunned for a moment, but then he understood what his uncle was talking about. Different from facing his eldest uncle Qin Changxing, Qin Sheng still felt a little pressure when facing his uncle, who was in a high position. Sometimes he did not dare to look at his uncle directly. "You little fox, don't you know what's on your mind in front of your uncle?" Finally, Qin Sheng confessed, "Uncle, you already know? It's such a big thing. If I don't know, how much trouble will you make?" Zhu Weiguo said in a sharp tone, "When did you know?" Qin Sheng replied truthfully, 3 years ago before Lin Su went to the United States. At that time, she did not intend to tell me and planned to give birth to the child alone. Someone else told me." "Nonsense. You are really nonsense." Zhu Weiguo said with a headache. When he knew this, fortunately, Qin Sheng was not beside him. Otherwise, he would have scolded Qin Sheng severely. Qin Sheng was silent and did not speak. Zhu Weiguo continued to ask, "After you came back, did you contact Lin Su? Did you see the child?" "Not yet. Maybe I feel too guilty for them and don't know how to face them. Moreover, they are still in the United States now. I have not had time to see them." Qin Sheng sighed. Zhu Weiguo did not know what to do about this matter. Therefore, after seeing Qin Sheng today, he could not wait to ask Qin Sheng what was going on, in case the Song family found out about it. It would be really troublesome. Zhu Weiguo frowned and said, "How are you going to deal with it? Are you going to hide it from them? Do you know that once you can't hide it, there will be no end to it?" Qin Sheng said slowly, "Ryu knows. We have talked about this matter." "What? Ryu already knows?" Zhu Weiguo was a little shocked. He really did not expect this. Qin Sheng continued to say, "She knew it 2 years ago. It was my uncle who told her. When we met in Chengdu, we also talked about this matter. Uncle, you don't have to worry about it." At this time, Zhu Weiguo, who had been frowning, finally relaxed. However, he was very puzzled and asked, "You talked about it? How did you talk about it? What did Ryu say?" Therefore, Qin Sheng repeated all the things he had talked about with Song Ryu in Chengdu to his uncle. After listening to it, Zhu Weiguo was stunned. He did not know what to say for a moment. After a long time, Zhu Weiguo let out a long sigh and said, "Do the other people in the Song family know?" Qin Sheng did not hide it. "Not yet." Zhu Weiguo felt a headache again. He felt that this matter was really more troublesome than work. He really did not know what to say. He had no choice but to say, "You deal with it yourselves. I don't care." After saying this, Zhu Weiguo turned around and walked out of the ward. Qin Sheng murmured to himself, "Uncle, are you giving up on me?" Chapter 1169. Zhu Weiguo didn't mean to give up on Qin Sheng. He just felt that this matter was too troublesome. His nephew had too many love debt. As an uncle, he couldn't pay them back. Qin Sheng might as well deal with it himself. At worst, he would show up in the end and clean up the mess. At least now, it was not good for him to show up, not to mention that the worst had not happened yet. After all, Ryu had already known about this matter and reached a compromise with Qin Sheng, acquiescing to the existence of Lin Su and the child. Now the most worrying thing was that the Song family knew about it. If the Song family knew about it, they might do something. At that time, it would depend on how Qin Sheng and Ryu would deal with it. If they really couldn't deal with it, the elders could only do it. In fact, if Qin Sheng and Ryu knew about it after they got married, the situation would not be so bad. Now the two children were married. No matter how angry the Song family was, they might divorce them immediately. Even if they divorced, Ryu might not agree. Then the Qin family and the Zhu family could deal with Lin Su and the child. For example, they could make them go abroad and never come back. Qin Sheng also promised not to see them again. The Song family's face was saved. This matter would be reduced to a small one. As time went by, it would be gradually forgotten. But if they knew about it before they got married, the situation would be a bit complicated. The worst result was that this matter would be known by everyone, and the three families would lose face in the end. In any case, they could only blame Qin Sheng, who made the Qin family and the Zhu family feel sorry for the Song family. Now he finally understood why Qin Chongqing took the initiative to tell him about it. One possibility was that if Qin Sheng came back and the Song family knew about it, the Zhu family and the Qin family would bear the responsibility together. Another possibility was that if Qin Sheng didn't come back, at least there was still Qin Sheng's flesh and blood in this world, which could also make the Zhu family feel relieved. Zhu Weiguo didn't bother to guess about this. Now that it had come to this, he would see. Not long after Zhu Weiguo left, Qin Sheng also came out of the lounge. He estimated that his uncle was really angry this time. He could only blame himself for hiding this matter, so that it became a big problem now. Fortunately, Song Ryu had acquiesced to it, but the Song family still had to face it. It was better to keep this matter a secret, but if the Song family really knew, then the Qin family and the Zhu family would really offend the Song family. Qin Shing felt a headache when he thought about it. But if he had told his uncle and aunt back then, perhaps their suggestion would have been for Lin Su to abort the child, and they would have done their best to compensate Lin Su or the Lin family. However, Lin Su did not want him to know from the beginning. Perhaps she would not want him to know for the rest of her life. She only wanted him to give birth to the child alone and raise it by himself. She did not have any other thoughts, nor did she want to use the child to threaten Qin Shing or the Qin family. Everyone knew that Lin Su was not that kind of person. Qin Shing knew it even better. If Xue Qinyan had not told him, how could he have known? At that time, the child was already a few months old. Qin Shing had no other choice. Therefore, Qin Shing could not be blamed for this. He could only blame fate for making fools of him. When Qin Shing came out, Zhu Weigua had already left. Zhu Qingwen walked over and frowned as she said, "What did your uncle talk to you about? Why did he look so bad when he left?" Qin Shing shook his head awkwardly and said, "Nothing, nothing. Tell me the truth, did you make your uncle angry again?" Zhu Qingwen asked with a serious face. Qin Shing quickly denied it. "No, small aunt, don't think too much." At this moment, Qin Shing was muttering in his heart. It seemed that small aunt did not know about this. Otherwise, he would have scolded her again. Song Ryu just went to the bathroom and happened to come out at this time. Qin Shing dared not say anything more to small aunt. Although Song Ryu chose to acquiesce to this matter, Qin Shing still did not want to mention it in front of her, in case Song Ryu was angry or in a bad mood. Although Song Ryu was so generous, it did not mean that she did not care about this matter. After saying goodbye to his grandmother, Qin Shing promised to come back tomorrow. After walking out of the hospital, Song Ryu was going to meet her friend. After sending her there, Qin Shing left. Today, Qin Shing had other important things to do. Two strange guests came to Old Master He's Sihiyuan today. Although they were strange, they were not strangers. Old Master He had known about them for a long time and had dealt with them many times in the past few years. However, he did not expect that they would come here one day. However, Old Master He did not show up, because the two guests were not here for him, but for Qin Shing. This was originally a place where he could live comfortably for thousands of years. Who knew that it would become a place for Qin Shing to receive guests now? Old Master He could not help but laugh, but he did not think much about it. Perhaps Qin Shing wanted him to be the gatekeeper. Because the two were not strangers, but the two trusted subordinates of Old Master Long, who had been in charge of the affairs of the world. Old Master He felt satisfied that the two guests, who were over 50 years old, could condescend to come to his place. After all, even now, the He family was not as good as them. Old Master He had been drinking tea in the study. Through the window, he could see the two guests sitting under the pavilion. However, they looked a little restless, probably feeling uneasy. Old Master He chuckled. This storm started more than 20 years ago. Until today, the Qin family had the last laugh. Not to mention that the Qin family had the help of allies such as the Zhu family and the Song family. After all, Old Master Long also had the support of many people. Allies were a kind of reflection of one's strength, which was the accumulation of generations of a family for decades. It was a nice day today. Sitting under the pavilion and enjoying the scenery and drinking tea was such a pleasant thing. Unfortunately, the two big shots under the pavilion were not in such a mood. They came here quietly to meet the young master of the Qin family, which was a risky move. After all, if Old Master Long knew about it, they would die miserably. A starving camel was still bigger than a horse. Old Master Long was still Old Master Long as he lived. Although old Master Long's words were not very useful now, as long as he was still alive, they could not be too high profile. Secondly, they did not know how the young master of the Qin family would blackmail them. However, in order to protect themselves and inherit old Master Long's legacy, they could only do this kind of ungrateful thing. After all, nothing was more important than benefits. In the face of benefits, everyone would be selfish. The two big shots were the middle-aged men who had schemed against Cripple Tang. One was gentle, and the other was full of Jianghu aura. Now, they not only schemed against Cripple Tang but also old Master Long, but they did not know whether they would succeed or not. However, as long as the Qin clan cooperated with them from the inside, this matter would not be far from the truth. They had been here for half an hour, but they still did not see the young master of the Qin family. This made them somewhat angry, but they could do nothing about it. Although they did not know where this place was, it was obviously safe enough for the young master of the Qin family to choose to meet here. The gentleman frowned and said in an angry tone, "What does Qin Xing mean? He made us wait for so long. Does he not take us seriously?" The other middle-aged man who was full of Jianghu aura replied calmly, "We have to lower our heads under the eaves. Now we have a favor to ask of him. It's just half an hour. Even if we have to wait for a whole day we can still wait." The gentle middle-aged man sneered and said, "You can stand it, but I can't. At the worst, we can continue to fight. Even if the Qin family has the help of the Zhu family, they may not be able to take advantage of us." The man who was full of Jianghu aura said with interest, "You forget that our current opponent is not the Qin family, but old Master Long. It is not easy for the Qin family to deal with us, but it is not difficult for old Master Long to deal with us. Everything we have today is given by old Master Long. Although he can't hold on for a few days now." At this point, the gentlemanly man was completely silent. This was their biggest danger at the moment. Fortunately, old Master Long only suspected and did not take action. However, once old Master Long made up his mind, they would have no chance to resist. Therefore, before old Master Long made up his mind, they had to make him die without a burial place. They had no choice but to take action. While they were quarreling, Qin Xing walked into old Master He Sihiyuan. He happened to see this scene. Chapter 1170. Chapter 1465. Chapter 1465. What a wild way! Right now, Elder Long, who was lying on his sickbed in Beidave, would never have thought that just as he was unwilling to admit defeat and was racking his brains to prepare for a comeback, the two confidants that he had painstakingly cultivated had already betrayed him and were now making a deal with his enemy. If Elder Long knew about this, he would probably spit out blood and die on the spot. There was no other way. Elder Long would fight to the death with the Qin family for his own selfish desires, but the others didn't have any blood feud with the Qin family. Why should they die for Elder Long's hatred? Don't tell me that you, Elder Long, aren't you going to reflect on why you lost in this storm? That was, all the big shots who supported him thought that this was a losing deal. They paid a heavy price and offended a powerful enemy, but they didn't get much benefit in the end. Who would be willing to do such a losing deal? Therefore, these two men took the risk out of desperation. They couldn't blame anyone. Among the four successors of Elder Long, the one who ranked first was now staying in Hong Kong and hadn't returned yet. He almost lost the right to inherit because he had to take the blame for many people. He might not be able to come back in this lifetime. Then there was Lame Zheng and these two middle-aged men. However, before that person was disqualified, no one dared to challenge his position, whether it was the lame old Zheng or the two that were present today. Almost everyone had already determined that he was the most suitable successor to Elder Long. Even the two of them thought so. It was a pity that this mess between Elder Long and the Qin family ruined the future of this successor, which led to the current situation of the three tigers fighting for the throne. However, it was obvious that the lame Lao Jing was not as smart as the other two. He really believed Master Long's words and tried his best to kill Qin Shing. Didn't he know that even if he blamed Master Long for this, he could still escape by luck? He was too naive. He didn't even know what time it was. Therefore, after weighing the pros and cons, these two men finally made this choice. The gentle and refined middle-aged man was called Feng Xiangru. This was a name that was full of wisdom. Feng Xiangru was also a descendant of a prestigious family. However, his family was relatively low-key, and he was one of Elder Long's biggest supporters. Feng Xiangru was very knowledgeable. He studied history at Peking University and later studied philosophy in Europe. How could such a person not be smart? In contrast, the middle-aged man with a strong sense of society was very different from Feng Xiangru in terms of background and experience. One was an elite, the other was a grassroots. His name was Yang Yaozu. From the name, one could tell what his family meant by giving him this name. They hoped that he would be able to bring honor to his ancestors in the future. However, his father's generation was also taking a risk. They weren't afraid of crushing him with such a big name. He didn't know if he had the fate to carry this name. But looking back now, Yang Yaozu really didn't let his old father down. From an ordinary youth in a small town in Jiangxi, he became such a big shot today. His journey could be said to be full of hardship. Yang Yaozu didn't have much interaction with Elder Long before he was 30 years old. However, he had been a chauffeur for an important figure for 10 years. It was common knowledge that chauffeurs and secretaries were trusted confidants of these important figures. Yang Yaozu didn't have much contact with Elder Long before he was 30. However, he had been a driver for a big shot for 10 years. Everyone knew that drivers and secretaries were absolutely trusted by these big shots. But on the other hand, it was also Yang Yaozu's ability that made this big shot particularly admire him. Yang Yaozu's conduct was meticulous, and his handling of other matters was even more flawless. Therefore, after that big shot retired, he allowed Yang Yaozu to start working with Elder Long. From then on, Yang Yaozu became acquainted with Elder Long. With the support of that big shot and his own abilities, Yang Yaozu quickly rose to his current position. Therefore, after that big shot retired, Yang Yaozu started to enter the room. Since then, he had a relationship with Elder Long relying on this big shot's support and his own ability. Yang Yaozu quickly rose to the position he had today. Then the biggest credit for maintaining their relationship must be the benefit. While Feng Xiangru and Yang Yaozu were quarreling, Qin Shing appeared quietly. He deliberately stopped at the door of the corridor and looked at the two big shots with a smile. Although Feng Xiangru was gentle, he was not as steady as Yang Yaozu this time. He was supposed to be more steady and Yang Yaozu was more anxious, but the reality was the opposite. It could only be said that no matter how good one's family background was, one was destined not to have such a state of mind. Yang Yaozu had been a driver for a big shot and had dealt with too many things. If he didn't have such a state of mind, he might have been fired by that big shot long ago. How could he be pushed to Elder Long's side? At this time, Yang Yaozu found someone standing in the corridor. He looked over and found Qin Shing was already there. Yang Yaozu immediately looked at Feng Xiangru. Feng Xiangru also saw Qin Shing. He quietly squinted and stared at Qin Shing. Qin Shing also walked over slowly. There was no one else behind him. At this moment, there were only the three of them near the pavilion. The others were waiting outside. Besides, this was He Lao's territory. Qin Shing was not afraid of anything. When Qin Shing walked into the pavilion, Feng Xiangru said in an unfriendly tone, "I didn't expect the young master of the Qin family to have the habit of eavesdropping. What an eye-opener." According to age, Feng Xiangru and Yang Yaozu were people of the same generation as Qin Shing's uncles. So Qin Shing smiled and said, "Brother Feng, I don't quite understand. I really don't want to disturb you. How can it be called eavesdropping? Yang Yaozu looked at Feng Xiangru and signaled him to calm down. There was no need to be so confrontational. He said calmly, "Young Master Qin, I've heard about you for a long time. Today, I finally get to meet you. Please take a seat." Yang Yaozu's trick of turning the guest into the host was really familiar. Qin Sheng didn't think much. He sat down calmly and poured himself a cup of tea naturally. Then he said politely, "I'm sorry to have kept you waiting." Yang Yaozu said calmly, "It's such an elegant place. It's a good thing to enjoy the scenery." Qin Sheng smiled and said, "The scenery here is really good. But it's not suitable for a young man like me." "Ha ha, it seems that it's not easy to meet young Master Qin today. But now young Master Qin is in charge of all the affairs of the Qin family. We can only trouble young Master Qin," Yang Yaozu said calmly. Qin Sheng replied, "It's really not easy to meet you. We almost didn't have a chance to meet each other. Once was in Ningbo and the other time was in the Sea of Bamboo in South Chuan. Fortunately, I was lucky. Otherwise, I would have died in your hands." Feng Xiangru sneered and said, "Young Master Qin, you must be joking. We have nothing to do with these two things. The first time was the old man and the other time was the damned cripple. We didn't know anything." Qin Sheng didn't want to be too aggressive. He replied, "I'm just saying. But I have to thank you. At least this time in the Sea of Bamboo in South Chuan, without your help, I wouldn't have gotten out of danger so easily." Yang Yaozu followed the topic and said, "Young Master Qin, you are too polite. This is just a greeting gift for the Qin family. Otherwise, the Qin family wouldn't have felt our sincerity, and there wouldn't be this meeting today, right?" Qin Sheng laughed and said, "Brother Yang, you are honest. I like to deal with people like you. After all, we are opponents. When opponents meet, they either fight or make peace. What are we doing today?" When Feng Xiangru heard young Master Qin saying that he liked to deal with people like Brother Yang, he snorted. Obviously, he was somewhat dissatisfied with Qin Sheng's words. Was it for him to hear? He was not a reckless person, but he felt that the Qin family had gone too far this time. Based on their strength and qualifications, Qin Chongqing should have come forward to talk to them in person. Even if Qin Chongqing was unwilling to come forward, it should have been Gongsun, the old fox. Everyone knew that Gongsun was Qin Chang'an's henchman and also the watchdog of the Qin family. Why did Qin Sheng, the little bastard, come forward in the end? It was totally because the Qin family didn't take them seriously and sent Qin Sheng to deal with them casually. That was why he was a little angry. If it were someone else, he would not have such an attitude. Yang Yaozu said directly, "This place is not suitable for us to fight, is it? Besides, we may not be young Master Qin's opponents. I know that young Master Qin's skills are excellent. As for making peace, it seems that we can't represent the old man, so we can only say that we are cooperating when we meet." Cooperating? Qin Sheng laughed involuntarily. At this time, Yang Yaozu was still putting on airs, which made him feel a little ridiculous. Yang Yaozu said lightly, "Yes, it is cooperation." Qin Sheng slightly leaned forward and said, "Brother Yang, what kind of cooperation?" Yang Yaozu took a look at Feng Xiangru. After a moment of silence, he looked at Qin Sheng and said, "Young Master Qin, what we are talking about today is more important. I don't know if young Master Qin can represent the Qin family. If not, we still hope to talk to your eldest uncle about it. After all, it concerns our life and death." "Brother Yang, what do you mean? Are you looking down on the Qin family or me? Am I not qualified to come?" Qin Sheng asked back. However, Qin Sheng could understand what they said. After all, he was indeed a little young in front of them. He could only be said to be a junior. Yang Yaozu immediately replied, "That's not what we mean. We are just cautious." Qin Sheng was not long-winded and said directly, "Since I can come, I can naturally represent the Qin family. Now I have the final say in the Qin family. Can you say it now?" Hearing this, Feng Xiangru was a little doubtful. He asked again, Qin Xing, can you really represent the Qin family? Qin Xing said unhappily, do I have to say the same thing twice? Yang Yaozu could feel Qin Xing's momentum. He said directly, okay, we believe you. Yang Yaozu also thought about this problem. Although this time the Qin family sent Qin Xing was after all the heir of the Qin family. As long as they told Qin Xing about this, he would definitely discuss it with the elders of the Qin family after going back and finally make a decision. This was the same principle. At this time, Feng Xiangru also lost his initial mood. After all, the main purpose today was to reach a consensus with the Qin family. The Qin family would get what they deserve. They would get rid of their own crisis and get the biggest benefits at the same time. Both parties sat upright and still. Qin Xing looked at Yang Yaozu and Feng Xiangru solemnly. Yang Yaozu and Feng Xiangru looked at each other. In the end, they decided that Yang Yaozu would speak. Yang Yaozu said slowly, "We'll help the Qin family kill Elder Long." Hearing this sentence, Qin Xing did not expect these two to be so wild. Chapter 1171. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. This was true for everyone, and Elder Long was no exception. Hadn't the Qin family been like this in the past? If it hadn't been for the Zhu family and the Song family behind them, the Qin family might have collapsed long ago. Even so, there were still many people who took advantage of the Qin family's difficulties. Otherwise, how could Qin Chang'an get in so easily? However, Elder Long definitely did not expect that the Qin family would end up like him today. As Elder Long lost more and more miserably in this storm, more and more people would kick him when he was down. People like Feng Xiangru and Yang Yaozu would also increase. After all, no one was willing to fall with Elder Long. Moreover, Feng Xiangru and Yang Yaozu not only had the forces supporting them, but also their relatives and friends who needed their protection. Feng Xiangru's family didn't want to ruin the resources and connections they had accumulated for generations in Elder Long's hands. After Elder Long died, they could choose a new Elder Long. As long as they were like-minded and had common interests, it was not difficult. However, if they blindly followed Elder Long to the end, they would pay a price that they couldn't bear. The same was true for Yang Yaozu. He had climbed to his current position from an ordinary nobody. After getting used to the scenery at the top, he was not willing to go back to the bottom. Moreover, he not only had to be responsible for the tycoons supporting him, but he also had to ensure that his descendants would never be like him. Instead, they would be born with a different starting point, just like the descendants of these big families. Therefore, both sides, or rather, many parties hit it off, and Elder Long could only be sacrificed. After all, it was Elder Long who had offended the Qin family, and it had nothing to do with them. At this moment, Qin Xing was confused. Before he came to see Feng Xiangru and Yang Yaozu, he had talked with his first uncle and Uncle Gongsun. At that time, Chen Beiwang was also there. He guessed the conditions and purpose of Feng Xiangru and Yang Yaozu's cooperation with them, and also discussed the result that the Qin family wanted. What the Qin family wanted most was that Feng Xiangru and Yang Yaozu could contain the forces inside Elder Long, so that Qin Xing could find a chance to kill Elder Long himself. At the same time, after Elder Long died, it would not cause too much backlash. That was why they needed Feng Xiangru and Yang Yaozu's help. However, he had not expected that the two of them would want to kill Elder Long with their own hands. Qin Xing did not know what to say for a while. Qin Xing fell into silence. Feng Xiangru and Yang Yaozu were not in a hurry. This was just the beginning. The cooperation between the two sides needed to have enough understanding and trust. After a long time, Qin Xing laughed involuntarily and said, "Uncle Yang, Uncle Feng, I really didn't expect you to have such a big appetite." "How is this a big appetite?" We're just taking advantage of the situation. Old Man Long has already lost his value. We don't want to continue fighting with the Qin family because of this. This is an ending that no one wants to see. Don't you want Old Man Long to die? Yang Yaozu said bluntly. They believed that the Qin family would definitely want to see this result. This was the only condition that could move the Qin family. As for the other benefits, they might just be additional conditions. However, without this condition, the Qin family would definitely not cooperate. Qin Xing said happily, both I and the Qin family want to see Elder Long die. But I always feel that something is wrong. You don't trust us? Feng Xiangru squinted and asked. Qin Xing did not deny it and said bluntly, to be honest, I really don't believe it. Who knows whether you're playing a trick or not? Maybe you've already discussed it with Old Man Long. It's very likely that it's a trap. Feng Xiangru said unhappily, Old Man Long has a grudge against the Qin family, but we have no grudge against the Qin family. In recent years, both of us have paid a certain price, but what benefits does it bring us? As you can see, we've suffered a great loss. It's all for Old Man Long. Are we stupid? Moreover, Old Man Long has always wanted to end the Qin family's bloodline. It seems that he will win completely in this way. Otherwise, he would not have dealt with you one after another. Honestly speaking, if I hadn't tipped him off that time in the Sea of Bamboo in the south of Chuan, how confident would you be to survive? Do you think that Old Man Long would let go of such an easy opportunity? Qin Xing thought for a while. Although he had set up the Sea of Bamboo in the south of Chuan, if Lao Chong and the others had not come to Chengdu at that time, and if his aunt had not been there, it might have been somewhat dangerous. However, since his aunt had been there, it seemed that he did not need to worry about anything. At this time, Qin Xing responded, fine. Even if what you said is true, I always feel that you are trying to frame the Qin family. If you kill Old Man Long, the Qin family will be the scapegoat and pay a heavier price. Moreover, tell me first, what do you need the Qin family to do, so that I can rest assured? Yang Yaozu said bluntly, we don't need the Qin family to do too much. You just need to double the pressure on Old Man Long, so that we can find a chance. As for the thing that Old Man Long will frame the Qin family after his death, you can rest assured. We can guarantee that it is absolutely impossible. After Yang Yaozu finished speaking, Feng Xiangru added, however, our request is that as long as Old Man Long dies, the Qin family, the Zhu family, the Song family, and the others behind them cannot continue to target us. In the future, we will mind our own business and go our separate ways. As for other things, you don't need to worry about them. We will give a reasonable explanation internally. Qin Xing sneered and said, that's it? Feng Xiangru replied, what do you mean? Qin Xing said aggressively, you brought down the Chang and family and sent my father to prison. Do you want to let it go? If Old Man Long died because of what happened 20 years ago, who will be responsible for what happened to my father? Yang Yaozu asked thoughtfully, what does the Qin family want? Qin Xing said unhurriedly, you have to compensate us, right? Besides, after Old Man Long died, can you eat so much? You have to give up some. What Qin Xing said was already in Yang Yaozu and Feng Xiangru's consideration. As Qin Xing said, after Old Man Long died, the Qin family would be in a mess. At that time, they would not have so much energy to eat them all. If they did not eat them, others would come to rob them. It was better to give them to the Qin family as a favor. However, Feng Xiangru did not think that he would agree so easily. He said in a low voice, we have to go back and discuss this matter. We are afraid that it is easier to invite them in than to send them away. Qin Xing took the initiative to throw out an olive branch as he said, ha ha, Uncle Feng, we still need to trust each other. The Qin family just wants Old Man Long to die. If Old Man Long dies, we may have a chance to cooperate, right? Feng Xiangru did not say anything. He just looked at the sophisticated young man in front of him quietly. Yang Yaozu felt that the time was right and said directly, "This is a small matter. Let's talk about it later. If the Qin family has no other problems, I think there should be no problem with our cooperation." Who said there is no problem? There is still the biggest problem, Qin Xing suddenly said without any warning. Hearing this, Feng Xiangru immediately got angry and said, "Qin Xing, isn't the Qin family a bit too much? Do you really think that we are soft persimmons? We do this because we don't want to lose too many benefits. If we really fight to the death, the Qin family will not be able to get any benefit." Qin Xing retorted, "Uncle Feng, do you really think that I don't know about your internal affairs? Old Man Long has already suspected that you leaked the secret of the Sea of Bamboo in South Chuan. Zheng's son also found some clues. Otherwise, why are you so anxious to cooperate with the Qin family?" Qin Xing was not afraid. Now, it could be said that it was clear at a glance who had the upper hand and who was the weaker one. Although Yang Yaozu was also unhappy, he still calmed down and asked, "Then tell me, what is the biggest problem?" At this time, Qin Xing said slowly, "Our cooperation will not change. It can be said that nothing will change, but we will change what we do." "How?" Yang Yaozu asked. Qin Xing sneered and said, "We will continue to put pressure on you, but you have to control your internal affairs and let the Qin family kill Old Man Long. This old thing has a blood feud with the Qin family. We must let him die in the hands of the Qin family. As for what will happen after his death, nothing will change. What do you think?" After hearing this, Feng Xiangru and Yang Yaozu were stunned for a while. What did Qin Xing mean? They did not expect that they would not kill Old Man Long, but the Qin family would do it themselves. But to them, this was a pleasant surprise. Originally, they said that they would help the Qin family to kill Old Man Long, because they were afraid that the Qin family would refuse to cooperate. Therefore, they directly offered the bargaining chip that the Qin family wanted. However, they would definitely take risks. After all, they did not have the final say in their circle. If the matter was exposed, they would have to pay the price. Now that the Qin family said that they would do it themselves, they did not have to take risks at all, which saved them a lot of trouble. It was really a surprise. How could they not agree? Feng Xiangru was overjoyed. He calmed down and said, "Oh, it turns out to be this. I thought it was a big deal. As long as Old Man Long is dead, it doesn't matter who killed him." This was a typical case of taking advantage of others and showing off. Yang Yaozu said honestly, "Are you sure that the Qin family wants to do this? Do you not trust us?" "It's not that I don't trust you. It's just that this is the ending that the Qin family wants," Qin Xing said disapprovingly. Yang Yaozu took a sip of tea and said, "Since the Qin family wants to do it themselves, we will leave it to you. It will save us a lot of trouble and danger. We will cooperate with the Qin family fully." At this point, the matter was almost over. It was meaningless to talk about other things. After all, they had to do it step by step. Qin Xing took the initiative to raise his teacup and said, "Let's replace wine with tea. It's a pleasure to cooperate with you. I will wait for your news. I hope it will not be too slow." Feng Xiangru and Yang Yaozu also raised their teacups and said, "It's a pleasure to cooperate with you." Since the matter was settled today, they were completely relieved. It was time for the disturbance to end. Only the death of Old Man Long could completely end this disturbance. Chapter 1172. Chapter 1467. Chapter 1467. We refine with that. Although this meeting was a little rushed, and both sides didn't expect each other to think this way, the process was a little exciting, but the result was still satisfying. Qin Xing did not expect Feng Xiangru and Yang Yaozu to be so audacious that they dared to attack Elder Long directly and even wanted to kill Elder Long for the Qin family. This was somewhat unexpected to him. From this, it could be seen that the cracks on Elder Long's side were deep enough. Without the support of the big shots behind him, Feng Xiangru and Yang Yaozu definitely wouldn't dare to take the risk out of desperation. Moreover, after Elder Long's death, there wouldn't be any waves that the Qin family expected. What Feng Xiangru and Yang Yaozu didn't expect was that the Qin family actually wanted to do it themselves. They didn't know if it was because they didn't trust them or because they really wanted to kill their enemies with their own hand. But no matter what, they couldn't wait for the Qin clan to do so, as it would save them a lot of trouble and danger. After they were done chatting, Feng Xiangru and Yang Yaozu had no intention of staying any longer. The longer they stayed, the easier it would be for Elder Long to become suspicious. Who knew if Elder Long was monitoring them? Feng Xiangru's situation was slightly better than Yang Yaozu's. Although Yang Yaozu looked calm and collected, he was much more worried than Feng Xiangru. Feng Xiangru had the support of the Feng family. Even if he were to fall out with Elder Long, there was no way he would allow himself to be abandoned. He was different. Although he had the support of that big boss, if Elder Long really made things difficult for him, that big boss might abandon him for the sake of his own interests. After all, for a person like him who didn't have a deep foundation, no matter how capable he was possible that he would be abandoned. Yang Yaozu knew this very well, so he had to strike first to gain the upper hand. After leaving the Sihiyuan, Feng Xiangru and Yang Yaozu got in the same car, and the driver was Feng Xiangru's nephew. They were very careful this time, for fear of any accidents, and they would be doomed eternally. Feng Xiangru said worriedly, "Lao Yang, do you think the Qin family is playing us? I can't help but feel uneasy." Yang Yaozu said slowly, "No, the Qin family is not that narrow-minded. Now, they also want to end this storm. As long as Elder Long dies, they will definitely shake hands with us and make peace with us in the future. We will not pressure the Qin family in other matters. Then, the matter of Qin Chang'an will come to a satisfactory end." He had made these conclusions after careful analysis. He trusted the Qin family quite a lot. If he had not figured out the Qin family from the beginning, Yang Yaozu would not have come to see Qin Xing so easily. The Qin family had attracted too much attention. It was time to put an end to all this. The big shots on their side all thought so did the Qin family. Feng Xiangru said thoughtfully, "I hope that everything will end soon, and I hope that Elder Long won't blame us." Yang Yaozu didn't say anything. He only hoped that the Qin clan would act as soon as possible. In the Sihiyuan, when Qin Sheng was still thinking about other things, Old Master he walked over. Holding a palm leaf fan in his hand, Old Master he looked at Qin Sheng, who was deep in thought, and guessed what Qin Sheng was thinking about. Old Master he did not know what Qin Sheng was talking about, so he asked casually, "I really didn't expect this to happen today. Opponents who have been fighting for so long can actually sit together and drink and chat merrily. Are they ready to make peace?" Qin Sheng came to himself and said with a smile, "Sorry to disturb you, Old Master." "Old Master," he continued to ask, "they came to you today to beg for mercy or to make peace?" Qin Sheng said slowly, "There are no eternal enemies, only eternal interests. As long as the goal is the same, an enemy can also be a friend. Moreover, they are not Elder Long. If they were Elder Long, he might not be able to walk out of here today." Old Master he frowned and said, "Oh, then tell me, what's your goal? Besides Elder Long, who else can it be?" Qin Sheng gave the answer happily. Old Master he shook his head and sighed softly. "As I expected, it seems that these two have betrayed Elder Long," Qin Sheng said unhurriedly. "You can't say that it's a betrayal. It should be said that Master Long has become a malignant tumor in that circle, so everyone wants to get rid of this malignant tumor without prior consultation. However, they can't do it themselves, so they can only get someone else to do it. After all, the Qin family has an irreconcilable feud with Master Long. Only the Qin family will be eager to see Master Long die suddenly." He had absolute trust in Old Master he. After hearing this, "Old master," he said in a low voice, "once Elder Long dies, you will make peace with each other and live in peace from now on? Why not?" Qin Shing smiled softly. "Old master," he smiled bitterly and said, "I didn't expect that Elder Long would become a sacrifice one day. I guess even he didn't expect it." It could only be said that Elder Long's circle was not as united as imagined. Because of a series of things, Elder Long had lost control. Therefore, Elder Long's survival would only make everyone pay more and gain more benefit. Instead of that, it would be better to find a way to get rid of Elder Long, so that everyone could be happy. That was why they met today. Old master, he already knew what he needed to know, so he didn't continue to ask about other things. The old master had a sense of propriety. When Qin Shing came out of the Sihiyuan, Chun Beiwang accompanied him back to the West Mountain villa of the Qin family. On the way, Chun Beiwang seemed to be not interested at all, nor did he ask anything about today's meeting. Qin Shing didn't know whether Chun Beiwang felt it was inappropriate or something else. If Chun Beiwang asked, he would definitely tell Chun Beiwang. After all, Chun Beiwang represented Uncle Gongsun, who was absolutely trustworthy. Qin Shing thought too much. Chun Beiwang didn't ask about this, because Mr. Gongsun would definitely tell him later, and he just needed to do what he should do. When Qin Shing returned to the West Mountain Villa, Qin Chongqing and Gongsun were already waiting for him in the study. Qin Chongqing didn't seem to be very interested in this, so he didn't ask anything in a hurry. Maybe in this storm, Qin Shing had the last laugh. Gongsun naturally asked with concern, "Young master, how did it go?" Qin Shing repeated what they had talked about in today's meeting. After hearing that, Gongsun was shocked and said, "Feng Xiangru and Yang Yaozu are somewhat bold. Aren't they afraid that Elder Long will get rid of them first after knowing it?" Qin Shing looked at Gongsun and said, "Uncle Gongsun, Feng Xiangru and Yang Yaozu are supported by forces behind them. Obviously, they have tacitly agreed to do this. Elder Long is already like this now. To be honest, he has already lost absolute control over that circle. Otherwise, Feng Xiangru and Yang Yaozu would not dare to do this even if they were 10 times more bold." Gongsun said thoughtfully, "That's true. Elder Long's situation is similar to what your eldest uncle and I have guessed. That's why we asked you to meet Feng Xiangru and Yang Yaozu. However, we didn't expect that they would be more direct than we thought. It's also a surprise to us." Qin Shing chuckled and said, "Actually, it's the same. They also saved trouble and danger. They just took what they needed." Qin Shing smiled and said. At this time, Qin Chongqing opened his mouth and said, "What exactly is going on? We are not in a hurry. Let's see what they will do first. Anyway, Elder Long is already like this. Who knows how many days he will live." Qin Shing sneered as he said, "Uncle, I can't let that old thing die so easily. He must die in my hand." This was the first time that Qin Shing had said these words so directly. Qin Chongqing frowned slightly. He wanted to say something, but he held back in the end. After all, Qin Shing's mother had been killed by Master Long years ago. It was reasonable for him to take revenge in person. Qin Chongqing had no choice but to say, "Whatever you want to do, just do it. We have no objection." Moreover, as long as this matter was done secretly enough, no one would know that it was Qin Shing who did it. They only needed to know that it was done by the Qin family. Elder Long's circle was already like this. So what if Elder Long died? Those people could not wait for Elder Long to die. Who would avenge Elder Long? Chapter 1173. Chapter 1468. Chapter 1468. Old friends. The Qin family would continue to put more pressure on Elder Long's circle. Qin Shing called Mr. Ding after chatting with his uncle and Uncle Gongsun. Mr. Gongsun had arranged for Chun Beiwang to take action in the Qin family, and Qin Shing had to inform Mr. Ding about the company. After all, Mr. Ding was in charge of the capital operation. As for Qin Shing, he just needed to wait for the news. It had been a few days since Qin Shing came back. He had already met all the people he needed to meet. Currently, he had nothing to do in Beijing. He was ready to leave for Shanghai. After all, it was almost the end of the month. Lin Su had brought her daughter back to China. It was reasonable for him to meet them. He hadn't seen Lin Su for 3 years. How was she? As for the daughter he had never met, would she recognize him as her father? How should he face her? It was not a solution to keep running away. He had to face it calmly. On Saturday, Zhu Jiao came to Beijing. He was in closed-door training, so he couldn't come to Beijing even though he knew that Qin Shing was back. He could only tell Qin Shing about the pain of missing him on the phone, which disgusted Qin Shing. On the weekend, Uncle Lin and Auntie Wang would go back to Xi'an. Xin would go back to Shanghai tomorrow night. She only asked for a few days' leave and would go back to work on Monday. Qin Shing was reluctant to leave them, but now that he was back, he could see them whenever he wanted. Besides, he would go to Shanghai next week, so he could see Xin again. On Saturday morning, Zhu Jiao directly went to the West Mountain villa of the Qin family after he got off the plane. He didn't even go to the hospital to visit the old lady first. The old lady had doted on him for so many years. After all, he was the youngest in the whole family. Besides, he was very close to Xin and Yaya, and claimed to be their best friend. Qin Shing was really afraid that he would lead Xin and Yaya astray. However, he still had some conscience. When Xin was in Shanghai, he took care of her a lot. Everyone knew that Xin was his sister, which saved her a lot of trouble. Today was Sunday, and the Qin family was more lively than ever. Song Ryu also arrived at the West Mountain villa early. The Song family said that after Qin Shing came back, his daughter had completely lost her soul. The number of times she went to the Qin family was much more than the number of times she went home. She was like water that had been poured out before she got married. In the kitchen, the servants of the Qin family could finally rest today. Zhao Anji and Wang Li were preparing lunch with Qin Ran, Qin Jing, Xin and Song Ryu. Nangong would come back later. Although she still kept a distance from the Qin family, she was Qin Chang'an's adopted daughter. She would be invited to participate in most of the activities of the Qin family. As for whether she would come or not, that was up to her. Fortunately, Nangong did not reject him today. It was said that she would bring her future boyfriend, Bok, over. Qin Changxing had also invited Mr. Ding. Mr. Ding had made great contributions to the Qin family. He had worked hard for the past 3 years. Mr. Ding was supposed to visit his friends today, but when he heard that the Qin family was especially lively today, he pushed it back to the evening. At this moment, he was already on the way with Ba Nangong. Qin Shing spent more than an hour in the gym and went for a swim. At this time, he had nothing to do, so he accompanied Uncle Lin to tidy up the flowers and plants in the garden. She did not have too many trivial things to do in the past few years. His biggest hobby was to raise flowers, plants, cats, and dogs at home. It seemed that people always had these hobbies when they were old. This time, when he came to the Qin family, he found that there were many precious flowers and plants in the garden. He felt a little itchy in his heart. Anyway, he had nothing to do, so he started to tidy up. Qin Shing chatted with Uncle Lin while moving the flowers and plants, which was also a way to calm his mind and nourish his mind. Qin Shing, if you are not busy, you can go back to Xi'an. Your friends in Xi'an also miss you very much, especially Xiaolu. Every time he comes to see me, he asks about your situation, she said casually while watering the flowers. Qin Shing was wondering who Xiaolu was. Then he realized that it was Lu Changxi. Uncle, does brother Lu go to your place often? Qin Shing asked. She said honestly, we all live in Xuzhang, which is relatively close to each other. Xiaolu comes over during Chinese New Year and often sends me things, which makes me feel very embarrassed. Every time, he says that he is helping you to take care of me when you are not here. You have to thank him later. Lin Shi had a good impression of Lu Changxi. At that time, the Lu family had helped him a lot, and Lu Changxi had done everything for him. Although it was for the sake of Qin Sheng and the Qin family, Lin Shi still remembered this favor. Qin Sheng sighed and said, "Uncle, I will call Brother Lu later. Brother Lu is really good, I quite approve of him. And Meng Zhe and the others, they have come often in the past few years. Every time they come, they bring a lot of things. Your friends are really good," Lin Shi said with a smile. He had benefited from Qin Sheng. Of course, he knew that they could take him seriously because of Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng nodded silently and said, "When I go back to Xi and next time, I will invite them to dinner to thank them in person." These were all his old friends in Xi'an. Qin Sheng also missed them somewhat. As Lin Shi spoke, he felt that it was somewhat smooth. He continued, "I also have Su Qin, that girl." As soon as he finished saying this name, Lin Shi subconsciously stopped. Why did he mention Su Qin? Qin Sheng was stunned for a moment. He sighed softly and said, "Uncle, does Su Qin often visit you? Look at me, alas." Lin Shi blamed himself. Qin Sheng smiled bitterly and said, "Uncle, it's okay. You can continue. Su Qin and I are still friends." "Alas, why not? She comes to see us almost every week. We don't know how to face her. This girl is also infatuated with you. She can't forget you for so long. Alas, I really don't know what to say. She doesn't listen to me many times." Lin Shi shook his head and sighed bitterly. Qin Sheng frowned and said, "Uncle, she is not married yet?" Lin Shi frowned and said, "If she is married, can I still say this? Her father came to me several times and asked me to persuade Su Qin. It can't go on like this. We have no other way," Lin Shi frowned and said. This was the result that Qin Sheng was most afraid of. Now it was really the case. He did not know what to say for a while. It was said that whoever started the trouble should end it, but he could not face Su Qin. Did he forget Su Qin? Of course not. How could he forget a girl who had accompanied him through his youth? Although Qin Sheng had figured out a lot of things in recent years, it seemed that it was unfair to Su Qin. So he could only talk about it later. At this time, Song Ryu stood not far away and called Qin Sheng, saying that Zhu Jiao had arrived. Qin Sheng went back to the villa after saying hello to Uncle Lin. As soon as he entered the villa's living room, he saw Zhu Jiao bragging from afar. His saliva was everywhere. It seemed that these women liked this playboy and were amused by him. At this time, Zhu Jiao also saw Qin Sheng. He immediately showed his best acting skills. A second ago, he was full of smiles, and the next second, he was about to cry. He was almost like a chameleon. The only thing missing was that there were circles of tears in his eyes. He sprinted to Qin Sheng and gave him a big hug. Then, he cried out, "Cousin, I missed you so much. You're finally back. Woo woo woo." Qin Sheng was a little confused by Zhu Jiao's exaggerated acting skills. After all, they had called several times. Was it so exaggerated? Qin Sheng directly pushed Zhu Jiao away and said, "That's enough. Are you acting for me or others? Do you think you don't need to pay me back the hundreds of thousands of yuan you owe me?" Zhu Jiao was really moved, but when he heard Qin Sheng's words, he directly shouted, "What the f***ck, cousin, are you a money grubber? How long has it been? Do you still remember it? If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten it. Didn't you promise me that you don't want it?" Qin Sheng deliberately replied, "Oh really? I forgot." Zhu Jiao directly stared at Qin Sheng and instantly looked like he was about to cry with joy. He turned around and ran to Qin Ran, shouting, "Cousin, you be the judge. My cousin is too stingy." The two of them teased and praised each other, causing everyone to laugh heartily again. At this time, Mr. Ding also arrived with Nangong and Bach. Qin Sheng was too lazy to pay attention to Zhu Jiao. He asked Xian and Yaya to clean him up and hurried out to greet them. Chapter 1174. Chapter 1469. Chapter 1469. Just ignore him. Although Mr. Ding was over 60 years old, he usually dressed younger. He only dressed more formally when he was in the company or receiving guests, which was somewhat different from the style of most big shots. For example, this year, he was wearing a white t-shirt, jeans, and white shoes. He looked much more fashionable than Ba. From afar, Qin Sheng could see Ba He, who was standing beside Nangong. He really did not expect that the two of them would be together. What's more, he did not expect that Ba He would be able to subdue the hot-tempered Nangong. He remembered the first time he met Nangong. He was brutally tortured by Nangong. He did not know how many times Ba He had been beaten up before the iceberg Nangong finally melted. Perhaps this was fate. Everything had its vanquisher. Qin Chongxing and Gongsun also came out to welcome Mr. Ding. They respected and admired Mr. Ding very much. This had nothing to do with how much Mr. Ding had contributed to the Qin family, but the personal charm that this man exuded from the inside made them admire him. "Uncle Ding, we've been waiting for you." Qin Sheng walked over quickly and said with a smile. Although they were all on the same side, Mr. Ding was too embarrassed to come empty-handed, so he brought 2 bottles of good wine that he had stolen from others. Although he also drank on weekdays, he stopped at a certain point every time and was not addicted to alcohol. Mr. Ding looked at the people who came out to welcome him and said with a smile, "It's really lively today." At this time, Qin Chongxing also came over. He pulled Mr. Ding and said, "Lao Ding, let's drink more today. I haven't drunk with you for a long time." Mr. Ding raised the 2 bottles of wine in his hands and said, "I came prepared. I'll accompany you to the end." Qin Chongxing laughed heartily. Qin Sheng glanced at Nangong and Ba He, who were walking behind them, and deliberately teased Nangong. "Look at you guys, I guess you're not far from getting married, right? When are you going to get married, or are you waiting for the rice to be cooked?" Nangong glared at Qin Sheng rudely. She had never had a good attitude toward Qin Sheng, this rich playboy. After that, she continued to walk forward with Mr. Ding. Ba He hurriedly whispered in Qin Sheng's ear, "Brother Qin, don't tease him any more, or I'll be the one suffering when we get back." Qin Sheng did not care at all as he said, "You are the wife you found yourself. Even if you cry, you have to take the beating. This has nothing to do with me. If you are not willing, you can return the goods now. I promise that Nangong will leave your corpse intact." Ba He wanted to cry but had no tears. "I am willing, very willing." How could he dare to say no? Who knew if the tigress in front was eavesdropping? Ba He liked Nangong, but it was not because Nangong was Master Qin's adopted daughter, nor was it because of the relationship between Nangong and the Qin family. It was not because he wanted to use Nangong as a springboard to step into the Qin family's circle and enjoy glory and wealth in the future. Back then, he had given up his future to plant trees in the desert, which showed that he was not such a person. He liked Nangong simply because he liked him. He liked him from the first time he laid eyes on him. He had pestered him for a full 4 years before they finally got together. It was truly a bitter journey. In the villa, lunch was ready. The Qin family was waiting for Mr. Ding. Fortunately, the dining table in the Qin family's dining room was big enough. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to accommodate so many people. In the end, the villa was big enough. Everyone present was familiar with each other, and there was no need for additional introductions. Only Lin Shi, Wang Li, and Mr. Ding rarely saw each other, but they had all heard of each other. Lin Shi had long heard of Mr. Ding, who was a big shot in the capital market. The men sat at the side, drinking and chatting. The elders reminisced about the past, and the younger generation listened attentively. The women were quite casual and chatted about trivial matters, but everything was still centered around the two elders, Zhao Anji and Wang Li. Only Zhu Jiao teased Xinxin and Yaya when he had nothing to do, causing the latter to be filled with resentment. It was not until 3 o'clock in the afternoon that the lively atmosphere came to an end. When it was over, Qin Ran sent Song Ryu back to the city. Qin Ran's friends were going to hold a dinner party for Qin Xing, so they went to the city together. These friends were Ma Weiyang and the others, who had taken care of Qin Xing a lot back then. When they heard that Qin Xing was back, they kept urging him to organize a dinner party. However, Qin Ran kept pushing Qin Xing to finish his other things first. Now that Qin Xing was almost done with his work, there was a dinner party in the evening. In the evening, in a famous barbecue restaurant in Siju City, Ma Weiyang and the others had already been waiting for Qin Xing and Qin Ran. This barbecue restaurant was not an ordinary one. Many stars and food bloggers came here to check in, and the barbecue was the top-notch M12 Wagyu beef. Therefore, they often met many celebrities here. Of course, the price was ridiculously high, so ordinary people could not afford it at all. Ma Weiyang arrived first, while the others arrived later. Today, they all benefited from Qin Xing's help. In fact, apart from Ma Weiyang, there were only Fan Deji, Zhang De, and Yin Hao, who were all Qin Xing's old acquaintances. When Fan Deji came in, he teased, "Miss Ma, you've spent a lot today. Aren't you afraid that we'll eat until you go broke? Get lost, don't look down on your sister Ma. You think you can eat until I go broke? Besides, if I can't afford it, let Qin Xing treat us first. Anyway, he and his sister are rich now," Ma Weiyang, who was exuding a charming aura of a young married woman, said coquettishly. Zhang De immediately replied, "D**mn, there's such a trick. I've learned it. It's really dark and slippery." Yin Hao used to be everyone's follower, but everyone liked him very much. It was mainly because he was very good at talking. He said at the right time, "My friend is a shareholder here. Why don't I pay for today's meal? I haven't seen my brothers and sisters for a long time." Ma Weiyang hurriedly said, "Haozi, don't mind them. They're just joking." In fact, everyone was not short of money. Regardless of Zhang De or Fan Deji, they all had some wealth. When they were together, they just liked to play and joke around. Zhang De also said happily, "Haozi, if there's something more expensive next time, you can treat us again." Just when everyone was fooling around, the waiter brought Qin Ran and Qin Xing in. Everyone subconsciously looked at them. Of course, everyone's focus was on Qin Xing. After all, they met Qin Ran often, while Qin Xing had not seen him for a long time. It was really a long time. When Qin Xing was about to greet them, Ma Weiyang was the first to come to her senses. She threw herself into Qin Xing's arms, hugged him directly and shouted, "Oh, my brother, I missed you so much." Ma Weiyang treated Qin Xing like this. God knew how many people wanted to get close to her, but did not have the chance. Ma Weiyang took the initiative to throw herself into Qin Xing's arms, and the others were very envious. Although Qin Xing was used to Sister Ponytail's style, he still did not know what to do. He had to gently push Ma Weiyang's shoulder and said, "Sister Ponytail, I can feel your longing. It's your chest that's touching me." Qin Xing's words almost made everyone burst out laughing. Ma Weiyang immediately pushed Qin Xing away and said, "F***ck, Qin Xing, you heartless man. You actually despise my small chest? Is my chest small?" After saying that, Ma Weiyang deliberately stuck out her chest, indicating that she still had a chest. Qin Xing did not know whether to laugh or cry. He said, "Sister, I didn't mean that." The others laughed maliciously. Qin Xing hurriedly changed the topic and greeted the others. Fan Deji and Zhang De, who were a few years older than Qin Xing, said calmly, "Welcome back." Yin Hao, who was more familiar with Qin Xing, took the initiative to hug Qin Xing and said, "Brother, I missed you." Qin Xing patted Yin Hao's shoulder and said, You've become more handsome. I wonder how many girls in Siju City you have hurt during the years when I was away. Yin Hao scratched his head embarrassedly. He had always been shy. Ma Weiyang pulled Qin Ran to sit down and said, "Today, Qin Xing is back. Tonight, we must not go home until we are drunk. Don't be so wishy-washy like the previous few times. You drink until 10 o'clock and then say that you want to go home. Don't you have any status at home? Look at me, when did my husband ever ask me?" Zhang De muttered, "We are not as bold as you." Fan Deji said with certainty, "Don't worry. Tonight we will definitely not go home until we are drunk." Although Ma Weiyang was a bold and unrestrained person, she was absolutely clean outside. She had never been a womanizer. Otherwise, her husband would not be completely at ease. Moreover, who dared to seduce Ma Weiyang? If that happened, they would be in serious trouble. After Ma Weiyang got a clear answer, she shouted that she was hungry and asked the waiter to quickly order the dishes and meat. When the waiter cut the M12 beef, Qin Xing found out that it was sold by the gram. Everyone only cut a piece, which was neither too big nor too small. In an instant, the price almost broke 10,000. Qin Xing was not particular about the food. As long as it was delicious, it was fine. Moreover, how expensive could it be? What kind of situation had they not seen before? They had often seen those occasions where a meal cost hundreds of thousands. After 3 rounds of drinking, Zhang De suddenly said, "Guess who I met yesterday?" Ma Weiyang said directly, "Who did you meet? Don't keep us in suspense, tell us directly." "Su Xingwei, this guy is really down now." Zhang De did not keep them in suspense and said directly. As soon as he finished speaking, the others looked at Qin Xing. They all knew that Qin Xing and Su Xingwei had a deep grudge. Back then, Su Xingwei had targeted Qin Xing a lot. However, now that the Su family was in decline, Su Xingwei was no longer the Su Xingwei of the past. Fan Deji said with interest, "Qin Xing, now that you are back, do you want to settle the score with him?" Ma Weiyang also smiled and said, "Qin Xing, as long as you nod, I will help you settle the score." Back when Ma Weiyang stood up for Qin Xing, Su Xingwei did not stop targeting her. She remembered this, but she did not have time to deal with Su Xingwei. Qin Xing drank a mouthful of wine and replied, "Brothers and sisters, I appreciate your kindness. Actually, I saw him 2 days ago. I know how he is now. It's good that you don't think it's good. His current state is worse than killing him." Zhang De frowned and said, "So you mean to just let it go?" Qin Xing replied calmly, "Just ignore him. This is the biggest revenge. However, if he doesn't know what's good for him, then don't blame me." After Qin Xing finished this sentence, Fan Deji took the lead and said, "Qin Xing, you're really ruthless. This is indeed worse than killing him." Ma Weiyang felt a headache when she heard this. She could only raise her wine glass and said, "All right, let's not talk about him. He is not qualified for us to take him seriously now. Let's continue drinking." "Let's drink, let's drink," everyone said one after another. Qin Ran did not speak, but she felt that Qin Xing had become more mature after coming back this time. Chapter 1175. Chance meeting. Once life was like rowing a boat against the current. If you did not move forward, you would fall behind. This description was more appropriate for a playboy like Su Xingwei. For ordinary people, their starting point in life was very high. However, for playboys like them, their starting point was actually the same. That was because their goal was to stand at the top of the pyramid. Therefore, when everyone worked hard at this age, if someone did not move, the distance would only grow. People like Su Xingwei were even worse. Not only did they not move forward, but they also fell back. Therefore, they suffered the most. Ma Weiyang was a woman. Her father's generation had already accumulated enough glory for her. She did not have to worry about anything in this life. Moreover, she had her husband to help her move forward. Fan Deji and Zhang De were originally not as good as Su Xingwei, but now they had both surpassed him. Moreover, the glory of the family could only speed up one's progress. After all, the second half of the journey still depended on one's own effort. Fan Deji and Zhang De were also on the right track now. Therefore, they dared to say such things. Now, Su Xingwei was no longer a threat to Qin Xing. The Su family was already in trouble, and could not even protect themselves. If he hit them when they were down at this time, it would only make others feel that it was not a good idea. Moreover, Su Xingwei had been high profile for so many years. There were many people he had offended or disliked. Maybe someone would help Qin Xing solve the problem. Moreover, as Qin Xing had said, Su Xingwei felt worse alive than dead. He had to bear more things. Sometimes killing people was not the best way to solve problems. If Su Xingwei really did not know what was good for him, Qin Xing could only be kind and send him on his way. After talking about this, little Haozi asked curiously, "Brother Qin, where have you been all these years? Why can't we find you no matter how hard we try?" Ma Weiyang echoed, "At that time we were all guessing that you either went abroad or ascended to the immortal world. Otherwise, as long as you were in the country, we would always find a way to find you." Qin Xing explained honestly, "Sister Ponytail, have you read too many fantasy novels? If I'm going to ascend, I probably won't come back. Don't people say that the human world is not worth it?" "What do you mean the human world isn't worth it? That's just the whining of literary youths. There's wine, meat, and friends here. Why isn't it worth it?" Fan Deji said disapprovingly. What he disliked the most were sentimental and whining. Ma Weiyang hurriedly stopped him and said, "Don't change the topic. Let's talk business." At this time, Qin Xing replied, "In fact, I've been at the border of Sichuan Tibet for the past 3 years. It's just that the transportation there is inconvenient and it's relatively remote, so it's very difficult to find me." Zhang De exclaimed, "F***ck, so you were right under our noses. Last year, Lao Fan and I even went on a 1-month road trip on the Sichuan-Tibet line." Qin Ran did not talk much tonight. She just watched Qin Xing chatting with these friends. Recently, they had talked about this topic too much. Qin Ran had no choice but to say, "Let's not talk about this now. Anyway, he is already back. It's okay to talk about this." Ma Weiyang echoed, "That's right. Let's drink. Don't keep fish." After they drank a few glasses of wine, Ma Weiyang said again, "Qin Xing, you have to bring Ruyu to the next gathering. Although we know each other, we are not familiar with each other. Let's keep in touch in the future. Otherwise, we won't know each other when we get married." As a man, Fan Deji somewhat envied Qin Xing for being able to win over a goddess like Song Ru. However, he was a few years older than Song Ryu. If they were the same age, he might have taken the initiative to pursue her. After all, there were many people in Siju City who had the same idea as him. Fan Deji said with a smile, "I heard that you are going to get married soon. Everyone is waiting for the wedding banquet. So in the future, you have to bring Ryu out more often." Qin Xing said casually, "She could have come today, but something came up. Next time, I will definitely bring her." After making fun of Qin Xing for a while, they no longer focused on him. They talked more about other things. Of course, they drank a lot of wine. When it was over, it was already 10 o'clock. Finally, Qin Xing took the initiative to pay the bill. Although this meal cost nearly 20,000 yuan, it was really not a big deal for Qin Xing now. Qin Ran and Ma Weiyang made an appointment to go to the spa together. Fan Deji and Zhang De wanted to trick Qin Xing into going out for a drink. However, Qin Xing politely refused in the end. He was clean now and would not dare to fool around outside. After all, he was going to get married soon. On the weekend afternoon, Qin Xing and Song Ryu personally sent Uncle Lin, Auntie Wang, and Xin to the airport. Originally, Uncle Lin and Auntie Wang had planned to take the high-speed train back to Xi'an, but Xin insisted on taking them to Shanghai for 2 days. She said that she would not have time to go back to Xi'an in the next 2 months because she had not spent enough time with her parents. Lin Shi and Wang Li had nothing to do in Xi'an, so they went to Shanghai with their daughter for 2 more days. When they parted, Qin Xing did not say that he would go to Shanghai in 2 days. After all, he had not told Song Ruyu about this. He only told Uncle Lin and Auntie Wang to take care of themselves. On the way back to the city, Qin Xing finally took the initiative to say, "I plan to go to Shanghai the day after tomorrow. There are some things that I need to deal with there. I may also go to Sanya." In addition to meeting Lin Su and other friends in Shanghai, there were indeed some things that needed to be dealt with. As for going to Sanya, he would meet Sixth Uncle. There were some things that Qin Xing wanted to discuss with Sixth Uncle on behalf of the Qin family. Shanghai? Hearing Qin Xing's words, Song Ryu's expression did not change much. She just asked calmly, "How long will you be there?" "I'm not sure yet. Maybe a week or half a month," Qin Xing answered truthfully. Song Ryu nodded silently and did not say anything else. Song Ryu and Qin Ran understood many things, but neither of them pointed it out. Song Ryu had taken the initiative to tell Qin Xing that Lin Su would go back to China at the end of the month. There were only a few days before the end of the month. Qin Xing chose to go to Shanghai at this time. What did it mean? However, Song Ryu did not stop Qin Xing from going to Shanghai. After all, she and Qin Xing had reached a tacit understanding about some things. Moreover, this time, Qin Xing's daughter would also go back to China. It was reasonable for Qin Xing to meet his biological child. On Monday morning, Qin Xing first went to the hospital to visit his grandmother. Zhu Jiao was also in the hospital. Now that Zhu Qingwen had been transferred back to Beijing and Zhu Changshun was busy with various affairs, Zhu Jiao was completely unsupervised. Zhu Jiao could be said to be carefree in Shanghai. Fortunately, this guy had grown up and did not cause any trouble. Otherwise, he would have been taken back to Beijing and locked up in a cage. After all, when he arrived in Beijing, there would be many people watching him. Qin Xing and Zhu Jiao chatted with his grandmother until the doctor reminded the old lady that it was time to rest. Zhu Jiao heard that Qin Xing was going to Shanghai the next day, so he decided to go back with him. After coming out, Zhu Jiao said that he had nothing to do and insisted on following Qin Xing to the Qin family's company to see the young ladies. He said that the front desk and administrative staff of big companies were all very beautiful, and the Qin family was so rich that they did not lack money. Qin Xing did not bother to pay attention to him, so he let him follow him. After arriving at the company, he directly threw him to Bach. He talked with Mr. Ding about some business, which was related to Shanghai. After all, Qin Xing happened to be going to Shanghai and had some things to solve. After talking with him, Qin Xing was ready to leave. At this time, Mr. Ding said that there was a senior executive in the company who wanted to see him. This senior executive was the youngest in the company, only 30 years old this year. Now he was the second in charge of the company's equity investment business. Qin Xing was a little confused and asked, "Uncle Ding, why does he want to see me?" Mr. Ding replied with a smile, "You will know when you see him. At that time, many big companies tried to invite him, but he chose us because he came for you." Qin Xing was very confused. Could it be an old acquaintance? After Mr. Ding walked out of the office, a man with outstanding temperament in a suit and leather shoes walked into the office. He walked slowly to Qin Xing and looked at him with a smile. "Chairman Qin." The young senior executive greeted him in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. As expected, this man who looked very calm and confident was the young man that Mr. Ding was talking about. It was just that Qin Xing could not recognize him even after looking at him up and down for a few times. Finally, he could not help but ask, "You are?" When the young senior executive heard this answer, he seemed to be a little disappointed. But soon after, he felt relieved. He said with a smile, "Chairman Qin, it seems that you have forgotten about me. But it's okay." Qin Shing said slightly awkwardly, "You seem a little familiar, but I really can't remember." The young senior executive said slowly, "A few years ago, Chairman Qin, you stayed in Xiamen for a period of time. At that time, you opened a coffee shop called Spring Breeze. Once, you met a boy who was heartbroken there. In the end, you helped the boy to walk out of it. That boy was me." After the young senior executive finished speaking, Qin Shing suddenly remembered. No wonder he could not recognize him. After all, many years had passed. Moreover, he had only met him once. "It's you," Qin Shing said in surprise. The young senior executive chuckled and said, "Yes, it's me. My name is Lu Jiangbai." Chapter 1176. Time flew. Most of the people in this life were passers-by. They would meet each other occasionally, but never again. To Qin Shing, this young executive, Lu Jiangbai, was like that. If not for the time in Xiamen that left a deep impression on him, he would not have remembered who this young executive was. This was under the premise that Qin Shing's memory was better. However, it was different for Lu Jiangbai. It could be said that the chance encounter at the coffee shop by the seaside in Xiamen had completely changed his life. If he had not completely let go of the girl that he yearned for day and night, he might not have been able to work hard and achieve the achievements he had today. After that, when he returned from studying abroad, he specially went to Xiamen to look for Qin Shing. Unfortunately, Qin Shing and Lin Su had already left Xiamen. Lu Jiangbai did not want to owe favors. Back then, Qin Shing comforted him and gave him 2 bottles of wine. Initially, he said that he would treat Qin Shing to a meal when he arrived in Beijing to return the favor. However, who knew that Qin Shing never called him? This made him unable to forget it. Lu Jiangbai was a top student in Tsinghua University's finance department. Finance was the king of all industries. To be able to enter Tsinghua University's finance department, he was a top student among top students. Moreover, Lu Jiangbai went to Harvard as an exchange student in his 3rd year. After the exchange, Lu Jiangbai stayed at Harvard for his postgraduate studies. This showed how talented and capable he was. Therefore, that girl called Gu Man really had no taste back then. She abandoned Lu Jiangbai, who had great potential. It was not easy to fight his way into Tsinghua University among thousands of people. Moreover, he was an influential person in Tsinghua University's finance department. Moreover, he could go to Harvard as an exchange student. How could an ordinary rich second-generation heir compare to these honors? However, it was useless to talk about these now. Perhaps that girl called Gu Man did not do it because of these. She just felt that a long-distance relationship was torture for both of them. The love she wanted was to be able to accompany each other and be together every day. However, she had already persisted for 3 years. Why did she not persist anymore? If she persisted until graduation, Lu Jiangbai might not be the current Lu Jiangbai. Lu Jiangbai was not wrong. That girl called Gu Man was not wrong either. It was just that they were not fated. At this moment, Qin Shing was most curious. Why was Lu Jiangbai, whom he had only met once, in the Qin family's company? "Why are you here?" Qin Shing asked, puzzled. Lu Jiangbai adjusted his glasses and said with a sigh, "Chairman Qin, it's a long story. But I'm here because of Chairman Qin. If it weren't for those 2 bottles of beer and those words, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I'm here to return the favor." Qin Shing shook his head and smiled bitterly as he said, "You owe me a big favor. But how did you find me?" After saying this, Qin Shing asked Lu Jiangbai to sit down and talk. After all, it was a long story. After Lu Jiangbai sat down, he said, I went to Xiamen after I graduated from Harvard and returned to China. Now that I think about it, it's really ridiculous to say that this is the last time I come to Xiamen in my life. Then I went to Spring Breeze to look for you, Chairman Qin. Who asked you to not contact me for so many years? But who knew that Spring Breeze had already changed its boss? This made me a little disappointed. Lu Jiangbai paused for a few seconds. Qin Xing interrupted. Don't call me Chairman Qin. There are no outsiders now, just call me Brother Qin. You can continue, Lu Jiangbai smiled bitterly and continued. Luckily, I know a few friends in Xiamen. After they helped me ask around, I finally contacted Sister Lin Su. Only then did I know that you guys were not in Xiamen for a long time. I didn't expect Sister Lin Su to be in America too. But she wasn't willing to talk about you, so I was too embarrassed to ask. After that, when I returned to America and went to Los Angeles for a business trip, I went to see Sister Lin Su. Only then did I know about you guys. I didn't expect Brother Qin to have such a prominent identity. It seems to be a world of difference from what I thought. Until now, Lu Jiangbai still felt that it was a little unbelievable. At that time, he thought that the boss and lady boss of Spring Breeze were definitely not ordinary. They looked like people with stories, but he didn't expect them to be so legendary. Especially when he went to Los Angeles, he found out that the lady boss, Lin Su, actually lived in the most famous wealthy district in America, Beverly Hills. Her neighbors were all Hollywood bigwigs and superstars. This was not an ordinary family. At that time, he actually had a thought. Could it be that the lady boss, Lin Su, had abandoned the boss and married a super nouveau riche? To be honest, in Lu Jiangbai's heart, the lady boss, Lin Su, was definitely a super beauty. Even if she really found a super nouveau riche, he would believe it himself, because the lady boss definitely had the ability. However, after meeting her, he found out that the lady boss, Lin Su, did not abandon the boss. Because the boss himself was a super rich second generation, he could buy a mansion anywhere in America. And the lady boss, Lin Su's family was not bad either, it was also a famous big group in Jiangxia. At that time, Lu Jiangbai finally understood everything. It was just that he also found out about the boss, Qin Xing. Only then did he know that the boss, Qin Xing, had actually gone missing. This made him speechless for a moment. No wonder the lady boss, Lin Su, was alone in America with her child. After hearing that, Qin Xing said in surprise, "You've seen Lin Su?" Yes, this is also the reason why I came to the company. At that time, I was preparing to return to China to further my career. After Sister Lin Su found out, she recommended me to the company. She said that the new company was in need of talent. After understanding more about it, I felt that it was quite suitable, so I chose to come here, Lu Jiangbai explained truthfully. Qin Xing did not expect that he would be recommended by Lin Su. Of course, he had his own reasons. The most important thing was that the Qin family's company was more suitable for Lu Jiangbai. After hearing this, Qin Xing sighed and said, "It's really a small world. I didn't expect that the two of us would have such fate." "Maybe some things are destined to happen," Lu Jiangbai chuckled. Qin Xing said thoughtfully, "I heard from Director Ding that you're very powerful. Back then, there were many big companies fighting to have you. Now, you're already the second in command of our company's investment business. I dug up a treasure back then. Actually, to me, I can go anywhere. Our company is strong enough, plus Director Ding trusts me very much. That's why I have such achievements," Lu Jiangbai said modestly. Qin Xing encouraged him, "Xiao Lu, since we have such fate, you can do whatever you want in the company. As long as you have the ability, I will definitely support you. I hope that you can shine even brighter in the future." Lu Jiangbai was slightly excited. "Brother Qin, don't worry, I will." At this moment, Qin Xing thought of the girl who abandoned Lu Jiangbai. He asked with interest, "That girl, do you still keep in touch after that?" Of course, Lu Jiangbai knew who the girl Qin Xing was asking about was Gu Man, his unforgettable first love. Lu Jiangbai shook his head and said, "We don't keep in touch anymore. Since I've let go, I should let go completely. No matter how much pain I have to bear, I have to thank her for making me who I am today." You didn't see her again? If she knew that you're so outstanding today, would she regret her decision back then? Qin Xing chuckled. Lu Jiangbai shook his head and smiled bitterly. He said in a self-deprecating manner, "These are no longer important. She has already become a passerby in my life. But we met after that. After all, we're from the same city. I've also heard other classmates talk about her. She broke up with that boy before she even graduated from university. After that, she went back to our hometown for postgraduate studies. Now, she's working in a state-owned enterprise. She's already married and has children. They're all doing well now." Qin Xing said after listening, "Maybe your lives were never on the same track. Even if you didn't break up back then, you might still break up in the future." "Maybe." Lu Jiangbai nodded silently. Qin Xing asked with concern, "Do you have a girlfriend now?" "Not since then. I still think that my career is more important," Lu Jiangbai said bluntly. Qin Xing said with interest, "All right, leave this matter to me. I'll get a friend to introduce you to someone. We have to settle your life's major event, right? After all, getting married and starting a career can't be delayed." Lu Jiangbai chuckled. "Then I'll thank you in advance, Brother Qin." After talking about these things, Lu Jiangbai left tactfully. When he left, Qin Xing heard Lu Jiangbai sigh. Qin Xing was very clear that Lu Jiangbai still couldn't let go of that girl. Or rather, he couldn't let go of the girl in his heart. After all, she had accompanied him through the most confusing adolescence. Unfortunately, if he missed it, he would really miss it. Lu Jiangbai only felt regretful. If she hadn't abandoned him back then, she might not be living such a mediocre life now. Now, she could also accompany Lu Jiangbai step by step towards glory. From then on, Lu Jiangbai must have felt very lonely. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.